Greetings, everybody. Welcome Tuesday night. Uh, as far as I know, the my Buccos are still beating the Cubs. I actually don't have the score up, but my wife sounds happy in the other room. So we have tonight a special guest, Scott DeMers, the creator of Dragons Down, and reasonably frequent visitor to the channel and friend of the channel, has agreed to join us and talk about Eastern Reaches, which is the new expansion coming out. Scott, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And so as folks filter in, first thing I would like to, hey, greetings, Jeff. I'd like to congratulate you for. I mean, that's the first order of business is congratulations. You're over 200,000. What's the? Do you have the exact number? Do you got it?
I mean, I might be on the Kickstarter page right now. It's in the range of $219,129.
That's good stuff.
In the range.
Super good stuff. And you funded in like 7 minutes or something, right? Like
funded in 7 minutes. It was I have learned 1,000 things because this is the first one that I've done totally on my own, right? And it's pretty fun to watch something that you sprung from your mind 172 years ago be embraced by the community. That's pretty cool. And so this is my largest Kickstarter ever, and so it's really cool.
Nice
to see.
Yeah, and yeah, congratulations. I mean, it's awesome work. It's very exciting to see. Now, are you surprised? Was this a number you did not like? Was this more than you expected?
I did a poll on the Discord server like how much do you think we're gonna do? And some people went as high as 400,000. I was like, well, that's not gonna happen. But I actually was the person who guessed the lowest, and I said I thought we'd do between 100 and 150. And some of that I think is just being humble, and you never know how something's going to be embraced or not.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I guessed 200. So I'm still it overshot me. So whoever's the next guy, he wins the Price is Right. I think, right? That's the
I do put together a little predictor based upon where we are and how we did versus last campaign and that kind of thing. And I think we'll do between 232 and 249.
Nice. Very nice.
That's what I think we'll do. And that blows my mind. The expansions tend to go down, right?
Right.
You don't tend to build on them unless you're one of the super hot, massive $1 million campaigns, and then you come out with a reprint and it goes to 1.5 million. Sure. That's never what I thought was going to happen with this. I am a one-person company, so to have it again go this well is just warms my heart, right?
But this is up. You are going up, right? I mean, this is so this actually I don't know. I'm not an industry guy, but this sort of indicates just a growing momentum for the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think it means I designed a good game. It's a game system more than anything else. And I don't have a great marketing arm. So we built via word of mouth primarily.
Sure.
Somebody sees the game and has pretty good table presence. We built, and I think the community is really to thank for a lot of this. It's been great interacting with fans of the game, and they keep me pretty centered and grounded, right?
Yeah.
When I hop in a game on the Discord server with people, usually there's a let's kill the designer so I can brag about that later aspect of the game. So that happens sometimes as well.
So what's your kill death ratio? What's your KD in Call of Duty?
Higher. My death rate is higher when I play with these conniving snakes on Discord. Let's just put it that way. When I play on my own or with my local friends, I tend to do better.
You do better. Yeah. I could see that.
Who knew?
I could see them jumping you, trapping you. Yeah. So yeah, let's talk a little bit. And we got a bunch of people in. Hello, everybody. If you do have questions, fire one away. I will try to copy paste them and sort of queue them up for Scott here. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you one, talking about Eastern Reaches. So I have not seen everything. I mean, I see the dailies that you post, but I haven't seen all of them. I just have the playtest version that you guys have on the mod, the TTS mod.
Yep.
But I was very, very happy, very impressed with the Pit Fighter and the Vanguard. I thought those are really fun, sort of, I mean, subtle, not like they weren't big, you weren't making whole new mechanics or anything, but I thought they acquitted themselves very well in the game. What is your favorite class out of the new expansion?
Ooh, it's probably a tie between the Monk and the Decayed as my favorite class. And interestingly enough, neither one of those I designed. Now I tweaked and kind of brought more into the fold of the game, but a person by the name of Fencer, a user on the Discord server named Fencer, came up with the idea for the Monk, and then of course George Verdanos, who's kind of famous on the Discord server, the person who created the TTS mod, or certainly took it to new stratospheres. He didn't create the initial one. The Decayed was his idea. And so it's been, I love the fact that, I can be caught off guard by how good an idea is for the game and can bring it in. So, yeah.
So, okay. So, now both of those, again, I've only seen the daily reveal for each of those. So I've seen the card. What about those makes them stand out for you?
Yeah, they both break the game, and which is what classes are supposed to do. Yeah, let's talk specifically about them both. The Monk, which I like, is the whole how thematic it is. People who know my games know that I'm just obsessed with the theme of the game coming through first.
Okay.
Right. I don't think I've ever started a game design saying that's a really cool mechanic, let's build a game around it. It's always been about the theme of the game first and how I want you to feel when you're playing it. And I want you to kind of get lost in the moment, like you are this adventure or whatever. So the cool thing about the Monk is it fits the theme so well, right? You can fight weaponless, and as long as you keep one slot open, you can do Iron Fist. And so you can act. It's a class that changes the way the game plays, because now you don't need to have a weapon. You can play it on the class card itself to do damage, and it gives great flexibility because you can put all your speed cubes into maneuver and attack. If you're fighting against light opponents, you can punch them to death very easily, but you can still take down a guardian as well. But you do so at the risk of yourself because you're causing wounds to yourself as well. So that's really cool. The Decayed, again, it's the theme aspect that hits me so much, because I love the idea of both the light and the dark. And so the Decayed is making choices throughout the game about, in essence, follow the light side, follow the dark side, maybe in an Anakin sort of way, but by leveraging the undead, right? You can either automatically destroy the undead, or you can bring them onto your fold. And so that's the first class in reality that has, where guardians can come and be permanent hires of yours, right? So you could be walking around with the Death Knight as your pal.
I did see that, and I was like, "Ooh, that sounds like a winner right there. Like that is a power that sounds like it is definitely a winning power, right? Immediately you're going to the first site, because a lot of the sites have undead guardians, so you run there and you sort of own that site. All you got to do is hit the guy, kind of, right?
And we just added some more with the battlefield reveal that happened today. Brings 6 more undead guardians into the game. With my favorite treasure site probably in the whole game. Not necessarily the most rewarding, but again, something that's highly thematic and rewards aggressive play.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, now now it's your favorite treasure site, so now you've hooked me. So now what is that? What do we got?
So the battlefield is pretty is pretty straightforward. It's just loaded with items. So you stumble upon a battlefield, probably, and I don't specify a time frame, whether it's an ancient battlefield or whether it's something more recent. Again, keeping the theme of Dragons Down, let the gameplay dictate kind of the story that you create in your mind. First off, it's protected by 6 undead guardians, so it's like a more difficult version of the Lost Battalion.
Okay.
Including at least one undead monster that flies, and so Fiery Chasm isn't a get out of jail free card. But it doesn't have that many treasures. You get cursed when you find it, or at least on the difficult side, you get cursed when you find it. You get a free deep treasure, so that's kind of the thing that drew you to the battlefield. And after that, it's largely a bunch of items. And so what I like about it, I'm always obsessed with trying to figure ways to get spellcasters to, with a little bit of risk, get some equipment that they can use,
Sure.
right? Because pretty well known, a lot of the spellcasters are glass cannons, right? They get hit once, and you're dead. So I thought it was kind of a thematic way to get more items into the game in a fun way. That had some risk to it. So
interesting.
It's really cool. It's thematic.
I hate the Lost Battalion, by the way, because if they show up, it's usually you're leaving. Like, you know what I mean? 9 times out of 10, I'm going to run.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's interesting.
But one quick final thing on that, which is of the monsters of these, the cursed, they're called the cursed that show up at the battlefield, 5 of the 6 of them are highly susceptible to things like fireballs, right? They're unarmored, they're slow, you can hit them pretty easily, they don't take much damage. But there's the one that's really fast, the ghast. And so I love when you make difficult choices for people. For example, if I am fireballing from hiding, do I include the ghast as a target, knowing I might, 25% chance of hitting it? But if I don't hit it, that's the one that's going to pin me in the clearing. So there's all these. I just love those kind of choices.
Anything with a 4 move is ghastly, so to speak. Okay, there's your dad joke. Blast Pop did ask, can you have a low-ink version of the online rules, preferably 8.5 by 11? It's not a bad question, actually.
Yeah. Yep. I don't have the ability to. So 8.5 by 11 is kind of a non-starter given the size and the way it's laid out.
Yeah.
I did put out a print where you can. It's paginated, so you can print it on 8.5 by 11. I'll look into the idea of doing that where I remove the background graphics.
Yeah.
I've done that for the scenario for the printable adventure journals.
Right.
It's just not highest on my priority list right now, as one could imagine.
Sure. Sure.
It's always a case of just trying to figure out when I have time and how do I prioritize that this time, because as most of you know, this is not the full-time gig. This is the fun-time gig, right?
Yeah. So. Okay. Now we're gonna get so now we're to my favorite part of the expansion. By the way, I am super happy about the spells. Like, I love the fact that you doubled the number of spells effectively in the game. That you upped them a little bit power level wise, right? They start at 2 cubes. Right, going up to the 3 pure, like 3 black, right, kind of, which is sort of interesting. I thought that was neat. Level 2 through 6, as you will. I think it opens up a bunch of new play styles for a lot of new characters. Like I think the Ranger becomes more formidable now with the new green spells in play. I think black casters were sort of, for being undead scourges of the earth, were a little wimpy in the old game, aside from Fiery Chasm, which is a great spell, but right? So I think this opens up a lot of neat ideas. So now, is that something you were looking to do? Was there a gap that you saw needed filled for spellcasters? What was your thought there, aside from more spells is really cool?
Yeah, the variety is the spice of life when it comes to spells. I had started a channel on the Discord of, I forget what I called it, but like general expansion desires or something. And somehow people started suggesting spell ideas. And I would say 2/3 of the spells in Eastern Reaches were fan submitted, modified by me. The tough part about doing spells are two things. The places where the game could be exploited or broken or whatever is absolutely in the spells. And I always am fearful that I've like when the game was first released, Keel had an exploit that there were certain circumstances where you could never die nor win. Right.
Right.
And like
Right.
that
Sure.
by using the heal spell in a certain way, which didn't come out in playtesting. So I'm basically talking about why I get nervous with new spells. And we playtested the heck out of it, but that doesn't mean that we haven't introduced an exploit at some point, right?
Right.
So that's number one. But yeah, these were ideas that people were asking for, and so let's give the community what they want is pretty critical. And then I did want to up the attack spells, the number of attack spells in the game. And so that was kind of a part of my personal favorite spell is Wild Shape, just because it's so interesting.
Sure.
It's easier to cast than Shapeshift.
Right.
It's a different color. Druids needed the ability to shapeshift, and I got inspiration from the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie, where the tiefling in that movie kind of transforms to a whole bunch of different shapes in time. And so I thought, well, how can I bring that into the Dragonsdown world? And of course, it is literally as you move from tile to tile, you have to pick a new monster in that particular tile. So it's like a limited shapeshift. I just think thematically it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's one of the. I thought green got a big boost. I thought black got a huge boost. I mean, everyone gets obviously more options and a boost, but I think, like I said, there's a lot of, especially the hybrid spellcasters. And don't get me wrong, these spells are harder to cast for a hybrid because they're all more cubes. But I thought a lot of the hybrids really were potentially helped by the new options, and so
I'll be really interested to see how people use Rot as a spell.
Yeah,
Rot became a spell because I needed the mummy to be able to rot you, which is straight out of Dungeons and Dragons, right? That where it touches you and you just kind of wither away. So you take a wound every round. I'll be really interested to see how Rot plays out in from ambush. The idea that, and it's a high level spell, but you cast it and then you kind of forget about that monster because they're going to take a wound every single round until combat's over. So I'm really interested to see how that. I mean, not interested to see how that works. I'm interested to see the response to people.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, theoretically, you could just rot. I mean, you'd have to get really lucky on hide rolls, obviously, but you could.
And it
sort
takes
of
a lot to cast it, and it's targeted, so you have to hit with it. So, let's see. I think Water Weird is pretty cool. Doppelganger will be really interesting to see. Orc Call, that's an homage, as you know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of them are really, really neat. So yeah, I'm sort of, and I haven't, I've played like 2 times on stream and then a couple times, by myself. And so I haven't touched a lot of them yet. So I'm sort of anxious to get in there and sort of see what ends up happening, right?
Well, and I'll throw out one final comment on the spells, which is, I certainly have heard people say things like, "Wow, every time I pick black, I always go with Fiery Chasm or whatever," and it's just by far the best spell. And I think that's to some extent against the spirit of Dragon's Down, in that. The goal isn't, the goal is to win and all those things. Everybody's motivated by different things. But for me, I like one of my favorite spells is Open Gate. And I love it as a get out of jail free card in combat, except for when it doesn't work, which is a fairly famous story. But, I would encourage people to see how things work and try other spells just to see, play the game in a different style than you have in the past. Because there is so much flavor just based upon the exact same here lineage and class picking a different set of spells. It can drive how you play the game, and that's a fun aspect to explore, I think.
Yeah. Win. I must be playing Dragons Down Wrong. That's funny.
What did somebody say?
Brow said, "Win. I must be playing Dragons Down wrong."
Yeah. No. True.
So okay, let's keep going on Eastern reaches. I'm going to try to watch chat for questions here, but
Okay.
so the new terrains introduce new mechanics, which I think's sort of neat, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about the idea there, the inspiration there, and then how do you think the river and the desert change the game?
Yeah, the total amount of rules for both the Riverlands and the deserts, the dreadful deserts, are, it's like a page, I think. With most of that being taken up on the peculiarities of ferrying on the river.
Sure.
But the I love that, again, they feel really thematic. Number one, in the deserts, as you flip the tile, the some of the sand dunes, the desert clearings move, and that is absolutely meant to show like the shifting sands of the desert. So advantage spellcasters, because if you're in a clearing and you go, oh, that treasure site is in the desert, I'm gonna have to wound a cube every round. I can enchant the tile strictly to make it into a clearing. So that part where you have some agency over the clearing makeup,
sure,
I thought was really, really fun. And so that's now, why would I partner that with a river, like water and then the absence of water? Oops, no, no logic necessarily. I've been fascinated with the idea of a river because of how much it opens up for scenarios,
okay,
and how much color it adds to the map, and how many new monster types it makes possible. The merfolk are one of my favorite monsters in Eastern Reaches because, in addition to the warriors and the queen, there actually are three merfolk mages in the game, and all three of them have different spells they cast. So when you get a merfolk mage, oh shoot, is that the one that casts water weird, or is that, right? So
sure.
and if all three come at once, it's like, oh, this doesn't look as fun as I thought it was going to be. And I like that. Again, variability for players, keeps the game alive, I think.
So that's interesting, because I was thinking about that today as I was, going over like lists of questions. I was thinking about, so there's only so many variables that you have to tweak with monsters, right? Because you got to fit them on a chip, right? I mean, that's,
yes.
So you only have, damage and attack, defense, and hit point. Well, not hit points, but you know what I mean, health and armored, right? Yep. So how, and I've seen your spreadsheet, I've glimpsed it. The Necronomicon of, right? How do you then make a monster interesting, something that someone's not seen before, with only really half a dozen variables max to tweak?
Yeah. A lot of it has to do with the differences between front and back. Like, if you look, you can hold up two monsters and you can see that they actually might share very common characteristics. For example, on the front side of the adult dragon, the Orc Lord is the same, except the Orc Lord has a sharpness star.
Okay.
Right? And that one sharpness star means nothing if you're armored, means everything if you're not. Right? And that it pretty much kills anybody it hits, the Orc Lord, if you're not armored, because of the amount of damage. But then when you flip to the other side, suddenly you got a fireball on one,
right.
and then the Orc Lord just shifts to a larger attack. And so the spreadsheet that he's talking about, that Chris is mentioning, is it has a front. Every chip has a front side and a back side. And then it has some characteristics that permeate, which is like it's health and armored and can it fly and is undead. But the front side is worth twice the value of the backside because there's a chance it might not flip and it'll never come into play. The front side
Sure.
is always the starting side. So a lot of times what you'll see in the monsters and the natives bit is the front side has a faster maneuver to pin you in the clearing. The backside has a slower maneuver and is more about clubbing you over the head. And that's especially true with the humanoids because they're not all going to flip. And
Right.
then that adds an interesting choice of where do I target? Do I target the fast guy knowing I have a lesser chance to hit, but because then that might get me out of the clearing, or do I go after the monster that if it hits me is going to do more damage? And so that was all. I hate to say it was all by design, like I'm some brilliant, that's, but that that concept was by design, right? Um, and so you can look and I don't think, though I've never actually done the analysis to say are there any monsters in the game that are different, like an orc and a orc and a and a griffin where they're the same on both sides. I don't think there's one in the game. There are some that are very close, but they're not the same.
Yeah, I like the variety of monsters. I think actually it's I think you've done a pretty good job with the number of different monsters there are. Um, I do think there's a lot of variation there, and I was sort of I'm not surprised because, and again, I mean, not to, I was actually promising I wouldn't even mention it, but you go back to say a Magic Realm. A lot of those do feel samey. I think there's a lot less variation in those creatures. Um, they also have the same sort of flip mechanic, right? And the speeds change
Yep.
and so on. I think
Yep.
Dragons Down, and a lot of this I ascribed to that. A lot of them, then you have a lot more monsters with powers on the flip side, which I think is neat. Um, but yeah, I think Dragons Down does a really good job of separating those monsters, even though you really only have really 6 numbers or whatever to.
Well, you paid me one of the nicest compliments I've heard in quite some time, Chris. You were just riffing on your stream while I happened to be there, and you said something about how the in Magic Realm the combats fall into 3 categories, right?
Right.
For the love of God, don't take this fight. You're going to
Yes.
win this fight,
Yeah.
and then there's those like I don't know, and it's a risk. And you said in Magic Realm that's a narrow band. The risk like it could go either way. And your
Right.
comment was, and I'm paraphrasing,
Yeah.
you'll be able to see it better, but was that the band of fights that could be winnable but could turn out poorly based upon factors, your choice of who to target and where you place your cubes and all that is much broader in Dragons Down, which makes combat more interesting. And
Absolutely.
you made my day. The biggest compliment I've heard about the game design in 6 months probably.
That is my favorite part. I mean, it's strange because it's not a because Dragons Down is not a combat game. But my favorite part of the design is the combat. I think that's far and beyond one of the best parts of the game. Is that combat is way more interesting than it really has any right to be, given the fact that it's a chip and you're just flipping the chip out. You're right. I mean, it is way more fun than it should be. So I do enjoy it. Blast Pop has asked any thoughts on more tiles of the same region, such as mountains or swamps, for added variability, and design additions possibly that take those tiles to the next level could be cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. The originally the it was mountains, caves, swamps, plains, woods, and somebody who worked at my publisher at the time said you really ought to add a word at the front in case you want to do the magnificent mountains or whatever. And so I did that. The reality is there are other terrains to explore, I think, that give some interesting mechanics. Again, like the rivers and the deserts that, and then the clearing type gives me those capabilities. The other part is, um, I really like the way wandering monsters work in the game, where in the mountains, you might bump into juvenile dragons. And I can create a theme around that, which is the juvenile dragons don't have a home like the adult dragons do. So they're still moving around the mountains, kind of trying to find their home like a juvenile wolf would, or a juvenile, eagle, or something along those lines. And so I wouldn't want to do another mountain set with juvenile dragons. I'd want to do it with something else, right? Um, and so, yeah, that's so. Anyway, it's an interesting thing. Probably other areas to explore first would be the,
Right,
be the
right,
way
right.
I answer that.
Yeah, I always thought something like almost a dungeon concept where you get, oh, the legend of such and such crypt, and the crypt is a tile. Like, I always thought that that would be sort of a neat sort of concept to do. And I thought that I heard you mention something like that, like specific special tiles that might exist or appear.
Yeah, I talk about this a little bit in the post I did on Board Game Geek called "The Future of Dragons Down," where I have a life cycle to the game.
Yep.
Because I think some people have talked about, if this just keeps going endlessly, at some point you kind of run out of steam, or you just have this monstrosity. And I'm not interested in that, right? I'm not interested in content for content's sake. I did this as a
Sure.
passion project. It's not about making money. The pledge, I think most people know that to date my profits on Dragons Down due to the tariffs have been, sure has been a good time, right? There probably will be some on this one, which is how exciting is that, right? But anyway, I'm getting off topic. The the next expansion is Wildlands. I've posted. There's a Board Game Geek entry for it that has what's anticipated in that game, and then that's either the last big box, or whatever these
Mm-hmm.
are. These are big boxes, big box expansion, or the next one, currently called X, only because I haven't started to think about it. Two things on that. The reason is people have asked more so than for other terrains and stuff. They've asked for special tiles, like what you talked about, the idea of
Right.
going to another plane, or go to a into a necropolis in the ground or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what what I what I'd want to do there is I don't know if I would package those all together, because it would probably be a tile or something like that per terrain pack as an addition that is a special tile. I've shared publicly, I think a volcano, I think in Discord I posted a prehistoric island. And these are all tied to terrain packs. And so they're not, you could use them with anything. So I'll spill a little bit more beans.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
I envision is that you have 12 tiles off to the side, or whatever it is, of these special tiles. Shuffle, 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 grab 3 at random, even if they're not for the specific terrain pack in play, and put them out.
Right.
And
Right.
there are special rules for every single tile, right? Now, whether I'd publish those all at once in one more big box, or whether I do those in smaller expansions and just kind of bleed them out, I don't know. But
Okay.
anyway.
So what do we got here? We have Jeff Stahl asked, does co-op roles have party versus party? I think someone answered that in the
I did.
scenarios. Yeah.
Yep, the scenarios. There's one in each. There's two kind of War of the Realms style, where you start out on a team. One is 2 or 3 teams by alignment, and the other one is just 2 teams, and your goal is to go out and clobber the other guy.
Will there
Those
be
are
Arctic?
meant, by the way,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Those scenarios are meant to showcase what it's like to be in a fight where it's like me and Chris and I are fighting against 2 or 3 other heroes, and we each have 2 or 3 natives tired as well, and it's just a big mosh pit, like a big skirmish, right? So that's what that's there.
Like the yeah, giant war scenario. Um, will there be Arctic winter tiles? This is from Double VX.
Yeah, that was a. So how do I want to answer this? How honest do I want to be? It's not, it's not about honesty.
Now that you said that,
yeah, I know, right? What a foolish. Well, to tell you the truth, as opposed to lying like a snake.
You're like,
no, I hadn't anticipated doing it, mainly because I didn't necessarily want to tie a weather system to the game.
Okay.
Okay. Now that, because to me it's like, well, the planes could be horrendous if the weather was bad, kind of thing, right? And so I didn't want to do that. For people who have looked at Wildlands, I don't remember if I posted what the 2 terrain packs are going to be in Wildlands. Maybe I should go check real quick before I start talking. Um, but one of the terrain packs does have a little bit of an aspect of a kind of a weather tied to it. So,
okay.
God, I'm giving a long answer. The point being, I don't know yet if that's what I'll do or not. I would probably prefer to have weather effects, and the weather system is done and in play testing right now. I'd rather have it in there, built into the weather system of the game. So the weather system, which would be part of Wildlands, at least that's the plan, is you pick a season, spring, summer, fall, or winter, and then there is a set of cards you shuffle, 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 and then you reveal them, and they have a number of turn orders, like number of turns on it.
Okay.
And the weather is in play for that many turns. There's also a little icon at a certain spot on the card that says this is when you reveal the next card. So if you're in the middle of winter weather and you have a horrible snowstorm going on, that icon is the last turn of the card. In other words, you're just trying to get through the snowstorm. You're not looking in the sky going, I wonder if, oh, it looks like there's rain coming. Whereas the ones that are clear, you actually get a little bit of a sneak preview a couple turns in as to what kind of, looks like bad weather's coming our way. I probably want to head to that civilization location to protect myself, or get underground where suddenly caves aren't affected by weather. And so you do that instead.
Okay. Interesting.
So, yeah.
Blast Pop was asking about the 2 scenario packs on Kickstarter. Can't find them. Are they still available?
They are. They're an add-on. So when you pledge for the campaign, you're given an add-on screen, and then there's $6 each. They're delivered digitally. They will be delivered in the pledge manager. Okay, so that's when you get access to it. And Blast Pop, your comment about Hamblin having wanted to do terrain packs was absolutely a critical design goal from day one, that I was going to realize his vision of where you could play with 1 terrain pack or you could play with 9 terrain packs by the time this thing's done. It's your choice what you want to do.
So, okay, so I'm skipping down to a question because that segs in pretty well with this. So I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't think this is the right term, but is it possible to overexpand the game in a sense? Not that, oh, there's too much. I'm just saying, so for instance, there's like an interest creep almost, right? So I was thinking, one of my problems with Dragons Down is simply that when I play, I want to play with all the crap. So I want it all out there, but yet there's no possible way that I can play with 7 terrain packs. So I'm going to play with 4 or 5 terrain packs, and swamps and plains are always going to lose that battle because mountains, woods, and caves are sort of canonical to me, right? That makes the most sense. And desert and river is interesting. They add an interesting mechanic. Swamps and plains really don't, and so they sort of get left behind a little bit. Is that something that you have to pay attention to and sort of be cognizant of and caution yourself against when you design this new stuff?
So a central part of my job is to make sure that each additional terrain pack has something interesting enough to to bring it into play.
Okay.
Right. Your own personal
Yeah, sure.
with playing, personal problems, Chris, with not wanting to play with the plains or swamps isn't my problem. No, I agree. You're kind of linked, I think, to Magic Realm, which didn't have, in essence, either. They had valleys and stuff, but that's one of the reasons why I added the Grove and the Battlefield is to kind of up, because I think woods are so interesting to me because of the two paths, right? But I just love the woods, but they are a less valuable terrain pack. And so I've seen people go, yeah, I played with woods and plains for a test game, and it's kind of dull, not a lot happened. I'm like, right, those two chosen together can have where it's not as exciting. So I wanted to make sure that I added kind of more to beef those up a little bit, and that's what's coming in Eastern Reaches. Um, so that's really important to me. It's my job to make sure that it's interesting enough that if I'm adding new terrain packs, it's because it's really interesting. So there are the tangled thickets, not jungles, because I didn't want it tied specifically to like tropical theater.
Okay.
I wanted it to be more about thickets, and then the hostile hills. And the monsters are some of my favorites in Wildlands. I cannot wait. And by the way, the mod's already done, of course, because of George Verdano's.
Yeah.
And so I just have to decide what I want to hold back for daily reveals.
Sure.
Because I was originally not going to do daily reveals. I was just going to release the whole mod. You can see everything's coming in the game. But the problem is I don't think I'm exciting enough to have stuff to talk about every day, unless I did let's do a deep dive on the cultists, which is one of the monsters in the hostile hills. And I don't know that that'd be interesting enough. You and others have said, oh, no, dude, you need to do your daily reveals.
Yeah, I do enjoy the daily reveals. I really do. I think that's sort of a very fun, that's a fun aspect to these Kickstarters, because I usually don't pay attention to a Kickstarter. Like right? I'm the perfect Kickstarter person, because I hand my money over and then, immediately forget. Like it's what, and then hopefully something shows up. But the daily reveals actually sort of keep me interested as we go, day to day to day, and you go, oh, that's a new thing. I didn't even know that was coming. Wow, that's cool, right? So I do think they are valuable.
Right.
So I do appreciate it. And Blast Pop just says pick the terrains randomly. I get that. I know what I should, and it's more a hypothetical than anything else. But I do think there almost is a little bit of, right? A lot of games have like a Magic the Gathering, like do you have power creep over time as new things get added? I think maybe interest creep or fun creep. Oh, the new spells are interesting. Oh, I'm not going to pick this, right? That kind of thing. I think, is there a little bit of that goes on?
It's a big part of what I do when I design these things too, is you're right. Like, every class you go, oh, like when I announced, for example, the Dervish, I saw several people post, that's the first one I'm going to play. It seems overpowered and da da da. Well, there are some caveats to how it works. Like the attack gets slower and weaker on each subsequent hit, which again causes you have to make the decision about, well, I obviously don't have enough cubes here to do a strong attack and a really fast attack. So in order to hit 3 targets with any enough amount of force to kill things, I probably have to have some luck engaged, right? And so those are the neat choices. But I don't feel like any of these new classes are overpowered compared to what has been in the past. I feel they're right in line. They're new and fresh, which will be exciting, but yeah, not overpowered.
And there is a place in a game with as many characters as you have in your game. There is a place for characters that are less mechanically wonky, right? Like at some point, the 10-year-old is playing their first game, you can hand them the warrior as opposed to the dervish, or right. I mean, I think there's a place for a simple character, or simple characters. So I don't think that you're necessarily missing out there. So okay, what was and full disclosure, I'm just taking this from Scott told me to ask this. Now, what's the hardest thing to balance in this in Eastern Reaches? What was the hardest mechanic to
Did I,
balance?
did I did I tell you to ask
You
me
didn't.
that
You
for real?
absolutely didn't. I'm teasing you. I'm teasing
So
you.
yeah, no, spells are always the hardest. They give me the most fear. I'll say that, right? Because you can screw up on a spell. Like there was a late change. I realized that I had underpowered. I forget which spell. Something that was like it allows you to, I think, start at the next lower level for a price or something, and and it was just too expensive, right, for what it did for you. So that's the biggest one. And then every once in a while, like I was modifying. Everything's been turned in at this point. Doesn't mean I can't make changes if I discover something, but sometimes treasures,
Hmm.
right, can can um, can modify what you can. Uh, Sometimes treasures. It's hard when you have 7,642 treasures in the game
Right.
or whatever it's up to now to go. Oh, if I get this and this, I'm unstoppable, right? So sometimes the interplay between treasures can have unanticipated consequences, right?
Absolutely. Now, is that now? What do you do? Are you going to go? Well, what's the chance you really get those in any given game? If it's like a one in 100,000 chance, maybe you let the person be unstoppable for a little while, right? That's the story they tell later. Like, do you
Yeah.
what's your I don't want to say what's the compulsion there? Do you go, oh God, that's a terrible design, I need to nerf that like immediate or whatever?
No, I've done that. Like Eastern Reaches is going to buff the not Move Earth. Is it called Move Earth? The spell
Hmm.
in the base game where you can rotate a tile, and people are like, well, most of the time you can't rotate a tile unless you're on the edge. Well, this actually allows you to also the buff is it allow you to flip the tile as
Okay.
well. It doesn't enchant it, but it gives you a way to just adjust a tile to your liking. So think about that for a moment. If you're in a woods tile,
Right.
right? Enchanting is 3 actions. Well, if you're just passing through and you're trying to just change the orientation of something, um, being able to flip the tile can be really powerful. And of course, if it's cast as a spell, it's free. It doesn't cost you any
True.
actions. And
True.
Dragon's Down is an action optimization game. Ultimately, there's a big part of it to win. So I thought that. But largely, I don't do anything with it. I am thankful that when people post questions about like, well, hey, what about this interplay? Um, 90% of the time, I have actually thought about it. I've gone, oh, right, here's how that works. Now, I may not have always documented it in a way consumable by a human being,
Sure.
but I have considered it. About 10% of the time, somebody posts something, and I'm like, son of a, I didn't think of that, right? And usually it's okay because those are the memorable games, either bad or good, right?
Right.
We all have loved, like somebody posted a game session recently where they had this all powerful half orc was just clobbering everything and then he got killed by a couple of kobolds.
Right.
And that's
Well,
memorable. He'll be laughing about that one for a while. Just like the time that as the Soulless, he went and fiery chasmed every civilization location on the map and was an unstoppable evil god. That's equally memorable. So it can be memorable in either direction. And I think those edge cases are what make the game really fun because you play for those games,
right.
right?
So okay, so that's a good introduction, segue to the next question, which is what have you seen? Because you now have hundreds of games under your belt. You've seen, right, dozens and dozens and hundreds of people sit down at the conventions and so on. What have you seen most that someone's come up with that has actually surprised you? What's the most surprising thing combo that someone's come up with or lucked into that has surprised you?
That's a that's a tough one. Um, I think one of my and I don't know if the Kirk Fogg that's in here is the same Kirk Fogg who was essential in developing the mod as well. And if so, thank you, Kirk, for everything you've done. Um, you were such an aid to Angel and George when they were developing the mod. But there was a game that I played with Kirk that is still, I'll never forget this. I'll be on my deathbed and I'll still be ruining the day I played with Kirk that day. I needed to get something. I forget the exact circumstances. I needed to do something at a location, but I needed to enchant the tile. And what Kirk did is he, on the other side of the map, summoned or found the disenchanter and found the portable hole. So he used the portable hole to pop to a gate right next in the tile I was in, and then sold the disenchanter to a merchant at the inn in the tile, thereby preventing me from enchanting the tile. I didn't have enough money to buy the disenchanter from the merchant to then run somewhere else to sell it and then come. So he basically nerfed my whole game and was just gleefully cackling. Yeah, so that
sideways PvP.
Confirming. Yeah, Kirk happened to have been in several of the games. There's that famous story about me, casting open gate, dodging 6 orcs, and then appearing right back in the same clearing with said 6 orcs, to which they all stabbed me to death. But Kirk has been there for some of my more memorable games. So yeah, Kirk is. Hey, if any of you play with Kirk, just know. Yeah, right. Revenge.
Jump him.
Right? Free a signed copy of Dragon's Down for anyone who kills him.
Take him into the shower.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so do you I know you've played this a 1,000 times, and as a designer you have sort of this overview, right, of the whole thing, but do you personally have a favorite lineage class combo, or right, if you were representing your district in like the Dragon's Down Hunger Games, you have to win, right? What are you pulling out to win? What is your go-to, I'm going to win this game combo?
I know that I enjoy playing the knight immensely. Often a human knight, where I can just slice something down before it gets a chance. Love playing the outcast. It's so different. Like I said, I talked about the Decayed and the Monk as being two of my new favorites. Really fun to play the Beastmaster. You kind of I like the characters that have where there's almost a little bit of a setup involved. Like the Beastmaster, you go, I'm going looking for, like, I rode into town once on a giant spider, and I could imagine in my head me like tying it up to the hitching post at the inn, right next to the horses, and just strolling into the inn, and I thought that was those kind of memories are just really cool. So yeah, the new Auroran class, which most of you have seen, is kind of a blend of like a dwarf and a halfling, in that they kind of get the might cube, but they get the 2 boxes, right? They get the extra health. They're not as good in civilization. They're kind of gruff desert born folks, right? So they're fun to play. I choose them a lot too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. As I look through my questions awkwardly.
Gale Blast is pretty cool. Hey, so somebody mentioned Carl. Hey, Carl, good to see you. Mentioned Gale Blast in the chat, and I want to mention something about it. Originally, it didn't have a wound to it until I realized that it was like a infinite move for free spell.
Yeah.
You can just Gale Blast yourself down to clearings, right?
No, that's true.
Until you ramp, right? And so I go, shoot. Most people go, oh, he must have added the wound, because then it would keep people from. Nope, actually, the whole purpose of that is so that you don't use it, like abuse it the way Fly was
Tech,
abused when the heavy skies modification wasn't made, where you just fly around gobbling everything up. You can use Gale Blast, you move to the next clearing, and then if combat hadn't occurred there, you just cast it again and off you
keep
go.
casting it. Yeah,
Yep.
I hadn't thought about that, but I do love the fact that that's one of those things where you do run into the three orcs, and one of them happens to be the guy who's holding you in the clearing, right? The bow orc who's holding you in the clearing, and you just go, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to gale blast that guy from ambush, and then I can run if I need to, or I can, right? I do love the utility slash, combat, or you just keep, right? Um, but yeah, I never thought of using it on myself, so that's
But
obviously a new trick that.
that's the beauty of it. Like, who was it that was saying? Like, I remember somebody who had played the game quite a bit posted in Discord. They were like, "Wait a minute, you can cast teleport on yourself?"
Yeah.
I'm like, absolutely. Target says you can choose, and by the way, when you do that, you can voluntarily receive the spell. So yeah, absolutely, you just teleport yourself out of the place. So yeah.
So let's talk about it's interesting because you mentioned Gale Blast and you mentioned Heavy Skies.
Yep.
Um,
Hey, can I point out one quick thing,
oh yeah,
Chris?
yeah, sure,
So,
please do.
so during the course of this live stream, we've gone down $128. So maybe
Oh,
I'm not
oh my God!
I'm not
Wait a
I'm not
minute.
being exciting enough.
What?
That's it. I'm pulling the whole game.
I take that personally. I take that.
Yeah, right.
That's my fault.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so you have several expansions that we've gone through. We're going to see Eastern Reaches. We're going to see Wildlands. Um, is there anything left? Have you covered all the little balance tweaks that have not like right as you add more stuff to the game and see more variations? Is there anything in the back of your head as a game designer going, man, I'm going to have to figure that out here in the next, to tweak this? Are there things that are combinations you're finding are overpowered, underpowered? Where are you on the balance?
Yeah. So Chris mentioned my spreadsheet, and it's I don't know how many tabs it has, 75 sheets in it or something. It's outrageous, but um, I'm so tempted to show part of it, but then
I
I'm
love that spreadsheet, by the way. I don't know why. But I do. I get it. I get where that's coming from.
but there's yeah. Well, here, let me. I'll share it just for a moment. One part of it. Let me see if I can do this.
Can you pull up your?
I don't know. I'm gonna try to share. Can I share via this? Will it? Oh, I bet you I'd have to share it, and then you'd have to share it. Let's. You know what? Sorry, we won't do it. Maybe I'll post a screenshot somewhere. But the gist of it is this: is the every single monster, spell, native, class, lineage, item, every single one of the horses um, is in a spreadsheet stack ranked against every other monster and native, every other treasure, every other item, everything. And so when I create something, I literally type in the stats in columns for it. What's its health? Is it armored? What's its, is it undead? Is it, can it fly? Can it, does it use magic? How many cubes does it have in strength, might? How many does it have in attack speed, maneuver speed? Does it have sharpness? Is it ranged? What's the weapon length? All of that is calculated to say, here's the fame for it, the fame value of that monster or native. And so that allows me to keep things very balanced. And then I do the same thing with classes for number of cubes they get versus, if people, if number of boxes, number of attributes, which are the icons, the alignment icons, all of that. And so the reality is once I've created something, I typically don't have to tweak it too much because mathematically it works in the system, right? Every once in a while something catches me off guard, but All treasures are priced according to formula. That one's a little more wild cardish because there are some things that I just like the golden icon, which just has an artificial value I've
Sure.
plugged in. But the same thing goes for where do the natives go? Where do they summon? What are their alignments? If somebody were to load them in a spreadsheet yourself, they would all balance out pretty well, right?
Yeah.
And there will be a new lineage in Wildlands that will be a reveal for sure. So it won't look like there's one, but there will be one, and I'm just
You're
excited as
dying.
all
You're
get
dying.
out
It's
about it.
bursting. You're
My problem is I want to like
you,
just go send it all to China and print it all right now and just ship it all to all of you. The problem is the whole gotta pay for my house and live and eat.
no, do you? Under a bridge. This would be way harder to do if you're under a bridge, by the way.
Getting internet's a bitch.
Yeah. Milo asked, do you expect future mission packs?
Yeah, so great point. I didn't finish my kind of conversation there, which is so great. Let's just pretend I do Wildlands, and let's say I do X with the special tiles as kind of a final kind of big thing. Well, what happens then? It's additional missions. I have ideas for 20 additional missions right now. I could probably rattle off in my head. Right there are a whole bunch of monsters that haven't been touched upon in any missions, and so there's that. There's there are additional treasures. There are additional items that I've thrown in that could be part of this. There's all kinds of additional stuff that could be added. And if they're cards, they're packaged up and inexpensive, and I just ship them to you, and I have those printed
Right.
and very inexpensively, and I just ship them around the world to wherever they need to go. And you just throw them in you shuffle them into your deck of cards and your deck of existing treasures, and off you go. But there are some tangible things like development rules. I developed the development rules like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I think they're dynamite. And the way it's basically done is you start out as a villager and you end up as a completely homemade hero class that you created.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
So we'll, and so in the end you go, it might have like the boxes that are on the cards, the attributes, all that. That's your own creation. Right. And so you end up creating your own class so people talk about like legacy or whatever. They end up, this is a class I want to play. So you can do that.
Off the Shelf Game Reviews asked, has there been any more talk about party mechanics? So is there any specific co-op rules that you like, specific co-op and party mechanics that
yeah,
that
so and Off the Shelf, good to see you, by the way. If this isn't down the path of what you're asking, please let me know. But so it is published, and it's on the campaign page. There's a link to the co-op rules. There are 2 co-op modes that are included with Eastern Reaches. One is and there were 2 theories to it. First was, I want the least amount of rules overhead that I can possibly do. Right? So how can I play in a true co-op? Because you can play co-op right now. Let's just work together and do stuff. And I see that all the time in games. This is actual co-op rules. Win or lose as a team, co-op rules with minimal overhead. I think what I call it, basic co-op, I think. And then the other one is Adventure Party. And the theme on that one is, I wanted you to be playing Keep on the Borderlands and Dungeons and Dragons, or Venture, or was it Adventure in the Unknown, or like those. Remember those first time you played D&D and you're playing?
I do.
Like we can probably all remember the first time we played, and whatever. I wanted people to go, we are this conglomerate. We're this group, and we move as a unit. There's probably somebody we have in the lead, and everybody else is backing that person up, and so we lose. If somebody dies, man, we're done.
Yeah,
So that's adventure party mode.
yeah, I was 8. I was an elf. I killed a giant tick, and that is responsible for all of them. All the money wasted on the bookshelf behind me, and all the time wasted on these hobbies for the next 50 some years. So, is the villain? So okay. So Carl J. Smith asked, effectively, when are we getting these Dynamite development roles? He asked if they're going to be in Wildlands or something after.
Wildlands or X? It's going to be one of those two. I just don't know which one yet, and it just comes down to quantity of stuff I have versus versus the time to do it right. I will say that when we do this, I've moved all my play testing to online, almost all. I still play with my buddies and stuff, but I moved almost all my so you'll get to play test it and provide feedback.
Yeah.
So
So can we chat briefly about the mod support? Like I mean, so okay. So, and this is I'm gonna yammer for like 2 minutes because I was playing this past week. George showed up, so that was sort of cool, and I could sort of feel through the chat just the dad disappointment as I was doing things manually that he had in the mod. Like I could just see him sort of shaking his head and giving me that. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But the mod support is really good. I don't use a lot of it because I'm not, I'm technologically challenged, presumably. But the mod support is great for Dragon's Down, and it is better than probably 80+% of the games out there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that voyage. I created the first mod. I think I believe I created the first mod, and Angel, who's active in the Discord and whatnot, and is a moderator on the Discord channel, was kind of like you, looked at me with great disappointment and created an enhanced mod, right?
Right.
Then George got involved, and Kirk Fogg, who's on this chat, got involved, and the three of them worked to greatly expand it, right? And then George has continued for probably the last year, I'm guessing, solo on it, and I get messages, several messages a week from George of like, hey, I think I'm going to add this to it. What do you think? And it's everything. Like right now, like what do you mean I have to reach in my board game version and grab a card out of the deck? Can't I just click a button somewhere on my board game table and a card will magically appear?
Yes.
So yeah.
It's no, it is really good support, mod support. Now, so that's interesting though. So from your perspective, again, from a business perspective, design perspective, so how important is that tabletop sim mod to Dragon's Down? Do you think is that a net positive to sales overall, or is it just a cost of doing business? Like, how does that affect I hate to say just the commercial, since I know this, I know you haven't made a ton of money based on, what we've talked about previously, tariffs and so on, but has the mod helped you in this journey, essentially?
Yeah, and by the way, I have to make reference to one of Kirk Fox's comments where he said, I didn't do much, it was mainly George. George still talks from time to time about the wizardry that Kirk was able to add to the mod that he isn't completely sure he understands how it works. He's just glad it does. So Kirk is being humble there. So it is less expensive for me to do Tabletop Simulator than it is for me to print out my prototype copies and ship them to the various people to play test. And I can then do blind play testing because I just, again, George is the world's greatest partner. He just, and this has become more of a passion project for him than it does for me. But he's also contributed beyond just the mod. He's contributed treasures and the decayed class. He's my sounding board. He knows the game probably better than I do in many respects. So, um, so anyway, I guess what I'd say is I almost think that if you're a board game designer and you aren't using, one of the tabletop simulator
Mm-hmm.
or equivalent board game arena, whatever, you're greatly limiting yourself and especially your ability to build a community.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, prototyping, once you get sort of the basics down, prototyping has to be fairly simple, right? Adding new cards and stuff. Probably you have that.
Yeah.
You guys have that down now.
Yeah.
Pretty. So I could imagine that it really helps prototyping quite a bit. What feature didn't make it into the expansion? What got cut?
Yeah, I anticipated that question, and I thought of something that didn't make it, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. Let me think for a minute.
We're having an old man moment here. I mean,
no,
that's fine. That's fine. I have them like way too often, but usually it's me forgetting where I put my keys, or why do I have a cup of coffee in my hand? But
I wait. I think I may have. I literally have a folder of things. Come on, why are you not cooperating? Now I'm like, George, do you remember anything? What didn't make it? There were a bunch of classes, right?
Okay.
When we roll out 8 classes, that means I probably designed 12.
Okay.
And that's probably the big one. There are typically some spells or treasures that get cut. Sometimes it's because you just run out of time to get them tweaked. There's a private playtest group on the server of people who have had access to the whole mod. 5, 6, 8 people who've had access to the full mod since the day the other Kickstarter ended. I think I released the Eastern Reaches mod public playtest mod the day after the campaign ended. I won't be doing that this time. I'll need some time to kind of get my what figured out. But yeah, probably the biggest one I'd call it would be classes, and I would say some of those are going into Wildlands.
Okay.
And in Wildlands, there's 2 themes. Like some of you may have noticed that I try to tie the classes to the kind of theme. Like for example, natives and legends. You can hire natives. There's a Burgess class, right? The Beastmaster can hire monsters, stuff like that, right? We are releasing horses in this mod, but I'm not releasing any classes that can leverage horses. You're going to have to go find them, which means there'll be special games. You'll probably treat them like a cherished family member when you do find them. But I'm playtesting the idea of some classes that maybe start with a horse, right? And then the other theme would be some little beefier spellcasters that aren't hybrids.
Okay.
So right now they're kind of hybrids, but what if we had some spellcasters who had started with a piece of armor and maybe an extra heart instead of what the kind of glass cannons that are the spellcasters now. Those are kind of 2 of the main themes I think in Wildlands.
Warrior spellcasters versus.
Yeah, these would be pure spellcasters, or certainly but they're beefier. They start with some armor and they start with an extra health.
The Oblivion Sorcerer. There you go. Heavy armor, right? Tanky.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just know that if it doesn't make it, if you don't see it in a public playtest, it might be part of a reveal. So
excellent.
You might be getting some extra info here.
So, do you have a few more? Can we take a quick break, real quick? Go to the restroom, grab a drink, and then I do want to ask you about horses. I want to know how horses are going to work, and wanted to get your sort of the reveal on that a little bit. since
Yeah.
I
So,
hadn't
sounds
seen
great.
them. So, all right,
I'll talk all about horses, and
excellent.
while you go get your drink, I'll keep an eye and answer
All
any
right, yeah,
questions in the
absolutely. I'll
chat.
be back in 2 seconds. Yep.
Okay. So, all right. Um. Okay. Let's see. Mama is the labor love. Yep. Agreed. So Asaru, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. You talk about how I come from a coding background. So if you're talking about getting into board game development, um, there are a million people that have an idea for a board game, and there are 1% of those people who know how to put together a good board game. That sounds grossly rude. I don't mean it quite that way, but like for me, it's all about the spreadsheets. It's all about making sure it's balanced. And I have played. I used to run a thing called Prototopia, which was a board game design group here in Denver. And the number of bad games I've played, you can't. It's not just about having wild ideas. I think that the two places. Some people start with mechanic. Oh, I got this cool idea for a mechanic, and I want to build a game around it. Or the other is, and this is how I am. Um, my life is cursed because I'll watch a movie, a TV show. I'll um, be taking a walk and I'll see people, doing something in the park, and I literally go, "God, that'd be a cool idea for a board game." So, um, I had pitched Andy Weir on the idea of doing The Martian as a board game where the players you play separately, and over time you gain like limited communication until near the end you can actually be communicating in real time to try and rescue the guy from Mars. He thought the idea was phenomenal, but he had already sold all rights to the game, and so I couldn't do the game. But he was like, "You need to do this. This is amazing." Um, but uh, but without the Martian IP, I don't think that's a successful board game, right? But in my head, I knew exactly. I wanted people to feel isolated, right? I wanted the player playing the Martian to feel isolated and slowly being brought back into humanity. So I would encourage you to start with what are the feelings you want somebody to play or to have as they play something, and then riff off of that, and then determine mechanics or from games you played in the past, right? Don't worry about pitching it. um, when you're ready, if you think get your buddies together, you play test a game. If you think you've designed something that's worthy of pitching, then go to Gen Con, go to Origins, one of those two cons. If you're in the US, UK Games Expo, which is going on I think this weekend, um, and literally create a resume of your game, and then walk up to every booth you can and get rejected like crazy, um, and just ask if they're taking submissions. So um, okay, so I went way too long on that one. It was the entire break. um,
What else we got? What do you have another question queued up? Who do we
Yeah,
have?
so off the shelf's asking about, let me just see these last ones, asking about if we'll ever see the dual layer boards again as an add-on. Probably not. That's probably not. We'll see. As you guys know, I'm not doing the Legend Edition again after this campaign, at least for the previous expansions, and that's just a self-preservation thing. Um, I wish I had never done the Legend Edition. Don't take that the wrong way. I wish I had waited and was now doing a Legend Edition, right? The problem being that I have to manage two completely different product lines, and every time I do an expansion, I end up with, like in this one, I'm managing 8 products. If I were to offer dice in the pledge manager post fact, now I'm at 9. Then I do the dual layer player boards, that's 10. And every single time you do that, um, there is it creates few problems, production challenges, and it creates there's a thing when it's called a pick or a pull. If a fulfillment company is going to ship you a copy of the game, they go, okay, oh, you want me to take it off the shelf to put it in a box? That's $2. That's just to pull it off the shelf. Oh, they want Desolation and Natives and Legends. That's $4. Oh, they want the dice set. That's $6, and they haven't even put it in a box yet,
Right.
right? And so, imagine, if you will, we had the human card that had a misprint in the second printing. If you look closely, by the way, it's the characteristics of the Auroran. So you can play with an Auroran class right now if you want. But if you kept that card. But so every single game I shipped out of the core game, second edition, cost me $2 extra to ship. And then quite a few of those people, not quite a few, 5 people. Oh, I didn't realize it was in the box because the fulfillment company didn't like tape it to the box or anything. And so I had to then ship more out. Same thing with the Witch's Familiar chip for people who don't remember. In Natives and Legends, it was inside the box for the Legend edition. For the standard edition, they didn't put it in the box. Well, that meant every Natives and Legends, I had 1,600 backers. 2/3 of those were standard backers. So that cost me about $1,600 just because they were too lazy they had obviously already printed them or wrapped them. And that was their screw up. They should have torn the cellophane off every single copy to put the chip in the box and then reseal it. And instead, they didn't even tell me. They just threw it in the box.
I,
Right.
I do.
And so that cost me $1,600.
I do weirdly love to hear these economics horror stories. I mean, it's depressing a little bit, but it's sort of wacky to hear behind the scenes of, how all this works and how really it's not easy at all to be an independent, and make this game. It's actually quite the undertaking that this thing ever got to anybody.
Well, it's funny. During the Natives and Legends campaign, we did have, really expensive shipping. More like I've been able to cut $20-$30 off some of the shipping costs, right, in this campaign. I wish people knew the amount of stress that I carry because of me, in essence, not working with the previous fulfillment company, because now I have to figure out, I'm doing all the VAT.
Yeah.
Right. I'm doing all that myself. There are ways to mitigate that, but make no mistake, it isn't easy. We had the tariffs pop up unexpectedly on the Natives and Legends campaign. It's like the horror stories that and so during that campaign, somebody was like, called me a criminal. Use the word criminal. You're a criminal for charging what you do for shipping. And I'm like, don't buy the game. I'm a dude running a business out of my office in my house, who has fulfillment centers that I rely on. And in the last campaign, I used Mr. B Games to be a go-between. I'm not working with them this go around. I'm doing it independently. I have a new fulfillment partner, and I've had to figure all this out. It's if I speak honestly, this will be an R-rated cast, but it is so difficult. And so I take it pretty personally when somebody says you're a criminal. I'm like, really? For just trying to get a game to market? Like, most people can't figure this stuff out. Or my favorite was the one who said the price of the game was just sheer corporate greed. And I'm like, they'd be really disappointed if they saw my corporate headquarters.
I don't know. Again, I love to hear the horror stories because it's a little fun to see you riled up because you're generally like pretty, even keel pleasant. You have that sort of Western, mountain time, pleasant demeanor, and I don't mind seeing you get a little mid Atlantic Northeast angry. Every so often, but having said that, I do think it does suck a little bit. It's a little depressing to see the trials and tribulations this game went through just to get on anyone's table.
But best part and the worst part about it is the fact that I got to deal with people.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
what I mean? Like,
that's everything, sir.
Yeah, true. This community's been amazing. And I will say, here's the moment that it all got better for me is, when somebody would post some kind of, fierce diatribe about me or whatever. And then before I ever saw it, I would see members of the community who had gone in and said, oh, I think you're misunderstanding or whatever the case may be. And so at that point, I do believe there's a phrase I live by, which is people of integrity, let time prove them right. And um, you just
Okay.
have to do your best, and not everybody will get it. Some people won't.
Sure.
Some people will, but just do things the right way, and in time things will work out.
I mean, it's the internet. I mean, there's going to be someone who loves what you do. I
Yep.
mean, on the internet, you could put anything out, to be honest, and someone's going to love it, and someone's going to curse you out, like to the degree you're like, wait, I just, I just said I didn't like this movie, dude. Like, what are we
Yeah.
arguing about? Like, what's going on?
I think you're completely wrong about that, Chris, and I just want you to know.
Yeah. Well, I know.
And frankly, you're not very intelligent for having that opinion. I mean, but even look at some of the things, like some of the links you see. Like if I start up my browser and it starts on a certain page, and the opening thing is, so and so gets owned by Bled.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not interested in any of that stuff. I'm not interested. I shut down all my social media. I don't care. Right?
Yeah, I'm not on. Yeah, I mean, it's YouTube pretty much, and I do still sort of use Reddit, which is dumb on my part, but
is YouTube social media?
Sort of. Yeah.
Okay, well then I have.
Then you're still
social
on it.
media.
Yeah. So, okay, Fletch asks, what's a good starting hero lineage scenario for new players? So what would you suggest for new players?
I posted about this. I'd start with a human knight, somebody can go clobber things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd start with a dwarf warrior, also something that can clobber things but different, and starts with more armor and less of a punching power. But if they find the right treasure, can suddenly turn into a beast. I like a halfling rogue, so that somebody can let's say you're doing a 4-player game,
Yes.
halfling rogue, because then somebody can experience and other players can observe how the kind of that game goes, the sneaking around and
Sure.
looting things. And then if somebody wants to go with a spellcaster, I throw out a human sorcerer and I pre-select the spells. I go with like shapeshift and what's one of the lower level purple spells. I typically go with something lower there. People always go.
I like fireball for a sorcerer because you get that +1 at speed, which is huge.
Great point. I think that's a good one.
Or an archer. I think archer's a great class. You can ambush.
Yep.
You get to reroll. You get that die. You get the tweak the dice there on the, which is the big problem with missile, is that missile die roll is fickle. She is a fickle mistress. Yes. Right? I like any class that can escape fights they don't want to be in, which for the most part means look for four speed slots and 4 cubes. Having said that, that's not 100% guarantee because you can get caught by lots of creatures still, but sneaky archer's a good one I love. I do like your knight. I like that as a good baseline. Big bruiser, go punch stuff. Assassin is interesting, although there's a little bit of mechanics there, but the fact that you can ambush, so because you don't get, because again, unlike an archer, no missile dice, so you absolutely 100% know that you can win this fight against one dude.
You can kill one dude.
You can kill one dude all day, right? And then, frankly, with the expansion, just to bring us back to Eastern Reaches, the Vanguard I sort of love. You get +1 attack speed on round 1, so
that comes out of a video game called Chivalry that I used to play with my son, and they literally have a class called Vanguard.
Okay.
And so it's a whatever live action medieval sword fighting game. It's 10 years old now, but the Vanguard, when they run forward, once they've run long enough, when you push the attack, they actually leap forward and do this big swing, and it's like an extra damage and it's faster and all that. And I'm sitting here going, Eastern Reaches has a Middle Eastern flavor. So what if we threw in a knight that, which does have some Middle Eastern ties to some extent. And then, the +1 speed was just, I want to make it so it's a tough decision because so many players wait till round 2 because they go, "Well, if I miss,
Right.
combat's over anyway." And I go,
Right.
"Oh yeah, well we're going to put in a guy that has an attack advantage on round 1." So, oh, you, see,
So okay. So the funny part was, by the way, we just the funny part was, so Fletch asked the question, and someone did answer. I forget who. I should. Someone said you'll get 1,000 answers. Yeah, Rick Van Dyke said everyone will likely have a different idea for you, and we proved that. Like we literally threw
totally.
30 different. Oh, here, do this, and it's like, okay, really? That's, yeah. So I think that's hilarious that we all have slightly different ideas, which is a testament to the game that there's enough.
I think that
combos.
I think that's one of the things that created so much replayability. Because God knows I haven't done the math. I don't know, we're at what 8 lineages or something, and I don't even know
30. It's 30. It's not 30. It's 36 or was or something more than that now because.
Right. And now you do that math because we added 4 from the public playtest. But the point there is, a dwarf warrior. I said, hey, play a dwarf warrior. Well, that's got the skill or whatever. The box is in the maneuver speed.
Yeah.
If you play it as a human, it's in the attack speed. Fundamentally different playstyle. Right? The dwarf has an extra chart. The dwarf has an extra might cube instead of a speed cube. And you go, well, I'm a dwarf warrior, I'm a human warrior. In most games, that's kind of the same.
Right? Yeah, no, I mean, I do think that I spent enough time glazing you on Wednesday about the combat, so I didn't go into the character, the combos or whatever. But I did say that you sort of win out. Like, I love Magic Realm characters, right? I love the 16 canonical characters. They are all very thematic, very flavorful characters. Like, right? I love all that. Having said that, at some point the replayability falls off because those characters pretty well and you know what they're going to do. And they do have a meta, right? Every character has sort of a meta that you do in Magic Realm. Whereas there are just so many combinations in Dragon's Down. Not all of them are optimal, but that would be a fun night to go, okay, you pick a random lineage and you get a random class. You do what you can do and good luck with it, right? But there's so many combinations and it is subtle. Like the elf is fundamentally different than playing a gnome, is fundamentally different than playing a dwarf. And each one does have certain classes that it pairs really well with and less well with and so on. But they all have sort of, right? They all have some merits, I think. And there's often times when I play something and go, you know what? I really should have picked this other lineage for this class because that would have really... Like, I usually roll the class. I usually randomly pick classes and then just pick a lineage to go with it going, I want this to be functional, so let me pick... But there's so many times where I go, oh, I should have been a half-orc, really, at this point. Like, I could use that extra might cube, blah, 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 right? Or I could use that extra move cube. And so I do appreciate that. That is a very nice design. The 1-in-1 worked out really well, I think.
Yeah, I lost some of the high specificity of like the difference between a captain and an Amazon. In that, people look at that game at Magic Realm and they go, oh, the captain and Amazon are the same. And you go, nope, because of the chit differences, which I couldn't do, they're actually played pretty differently, even though they start with the exact same equipment. That's the brilliance of Hamblin. But I felt like that was a small sacrifice to make by splitting those into 2. So you can create your own versions of, like you can create a weaker barbarian or a slower barbarian or a whatever.
Or a barbarian with a spell, which, right? Which maybe you find a good use for that, right? Maybe you have that, I'm gonna take Move Earth on the barbarian, right? I'm gonna be an elven barbarian with Move Earth, and and I might have to enchant to cast this spell, but I'm gonna do it. So if I find a tile with 2 sites, I'm gonna enchant, and then I'm gonna be able to do these things. I think it is a very nice design, and yeah, there's not as many variables as the other game, which we shall not mention, but and there aren't, but I think those variables do a really good job. But the number of variables you have doesn't necessarily matter. It really comes down to variation of play experiences, ultimately, is what you want to shoot for. And I do think that Dragon's Down has done a very good job in creating a large number of variances of play. That was a really long freaking sentence to say
Well,
it's sort of cool.
yeah, well, but the interesting thing, like, and Teresa had called this out. I forget if it was in Discord or on Board Game Geek, but Teresa Mickelson, who's in the stream and is a legend in the Magic Realm community,
Yes, she is.
he said that yes, people have said, well, I really wish I could pick the stats, great treasures versus gold versus this, so that I have a goal at the start of Dragon's Down, and that's scenario 4 in the core game rulebook.
Yeah.
So in the core game, so you have that. But Teresa brought up a great point. She said, once you get to know the heroes, that if you're playing the White Knight, you are going to select fame, and you're going to select this and that, right? Whereas, and so I don't like games that self-prescribe if you want a chance to win, and that's why I did away with that, right? All right, so there's a question in here about
2 questions.
Yeah. Go ahead, fire away. You asked.
I'm copying. Honest to God, I'm trying to pay attention. It doesn't look like it, I know, but no. Frizz 13 asked, you were thinking about possibly expanding Dragon's Down system to other genres. What would be your first choice?
Yeah, roll the dice. Depends on the day. But my initial thought was sci-fi.
Sure.
And then I got a little bogged down because I pictured like having red acrylic cubes that are like your ammo for laser weapons,
sure.
or lightsabers, that laser sword, that kind of stuff. I thought that could be really cool. Then I was like, well, wait, are you on a ship like the Nostromo? Is that the scale, or are you on a planet where each terrain pack is a planet that you could, or a biome or whatever? And so that's one idea. There's been some really cool post-apocalyptic is really interesting to me. Both of those, the things that they grant are the ability to do, mutants and monsters and some really cool things. It's kind of hard to have like civilization locations when you're on a ship, right? So like if you're on the Nostromo and there's aliens or whatever, so, but there are both of those have really cool aspects. I've also seen, because there's somebody had thrown out Gamma World. I researched, what IP could I get licensed for? That ain't one of them. I'll tell you that. But
I think post-apocalyptic would be a pretty easy fit. Weirdly enough, I think that's a pretty easy fit for this, very similar rule set. Like sci-fi to me always feels more like there's a larger commerce aspect, right? Or there's a lot more gear, right? Technology, commerce aspect. I mean, but again, I'm talking about Traveler essentially, right? Is sort of my sci-fi grounding. So very interesting.
I would think if I had to, like, if you held a gun to my head and said you have to pick one now, I'd probably say post-apocalyptic. And for me that would be, I do right now, I'm doing one game a year, and I don't see that changing. But I'm also retiring soon, and what I would love to do is when I get past, this is one of the incentives to do Wildlands as the last major release, is because when I transition to more minor releases for Dragon's Down, those become fairly easy to do, and I could then transition to, okay, now let's focus on post-apocalyptic or whatever the case may be. The reality though is, keep your ideas coming for what you think would be a good, things you'd like to see in it. And I'm even open to the idea, I'm gonna throw us out, horror of horrors, I'm open to the idea of a cadet designer working on something with my guidance to ultimately be released by Active Magic Games as a collaboration.
There you go.
So that's something that interests me as well.
Now, just an off question, and we'll get to the next question that I saw. But have you played Zaya?
Yes, very much. Yeah, I gave it away in the end because I couldn't get my group to play it. I loved everything about that game with one exception, and that was the roll to move aspect. Although there was a variant that somebody had published that I thought was really good. I just thought it was ridiculous that you'd go, I roll a 20-sided die, and I might be rolling a 1 or I might be rolling a
Sure,
20.
sure.
That felt like lazy design to me. But other than that, I think that game's brilliant.
Roll to move is a very divisive. like roll to move is, people will fight over that. So that's where I was sort of thinking, right? Sci-fi always gives me a little bit of that. There's always space trucker vibes. As soon as you say sci-fi, I'm immediately thinking about, right, space trucker, and we occasionally do illegal stuff to make our bills. But
yeah, there's a scenario. I know you're about to ask me the question here about the Black Knight.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
In scenario pack 2, all of those are thematically tied. Just as a quick plug on those, they're all thematically tied to the terrain packs included with Eastern Reaches. So, like as an example, the desert packs, one of the scenarios is about you escorting the last caravan through the desert, and you have to get it safely to civilization, get it through the desert. It's really a cool concept. The nomads go from being the nomads are these desert raiders, basically, right?
This is never going to happen because I will never get it to the point where I'm happy with it. But I am dying to do Barbarian Prince of Dragons Down, and essentially do a Barbarian Prince scenario using Dragons Down as sort of the baseline. But
somebody should just commit to designing it, and then that will be your incentive of like, wait, I can't let you do it, I have to do it.
Yeah, no. I mean, someday I'm getting there. I'm writing it down. I got notes everywhere. It's a thing, but does the Black Knight play similar to the Magic Realm Black Knight? I've always heard it was a PvP style character. I love Merchant of Venus, by the way, Tony. But yeah, Tony asked about the Black Knight, and does the Black Knight play similar to Magic Realm's Black Knight?
Yeah, so the Black Knight so the short answer is yes, which I was able to do based upon the ability of the Black Knight in Dragon's Down, right? The Black Knight in Magic Realm wasn't strong enough to take down the big monsters, could take down natives and could rely on his armor and whatnot. All of that still applies in Dragon's Down, but I've added in the ability where he gets an advantage haggling on stuff, and so it benefits the Black Knight to stick around. And then there's almost the white version, which is the Paladin, who earns extra LP for titles. So you kind of want to really pay attention to the title. So it's a different flavor of it, but yeah.
Yeah, and that mimics the Black Knight's fear power in Magic Realm, which is really super powered. Like he that is a winning power, for sure.
Yeah.
But and Blast Pop was talking about Merchant of Venus. The FFG version is even better, which I have the original version of Merchant of Venus, do not know anything about the FFG version. So,
yeah. And hey, Tony, you made the reference to notoriety. So just for those who aren't Magic Realm players, there's this concept of fame and notoriety. And fame is, you get famous for killing monsters. Notoriety is almost like the evil version of fame, and you get that for underhanded dealings largely with the natives. You're right, I didn't bring that in, and the reason is the game still has to be approachable, and that was a central theme. No different than you don't have 16 chits to keep track of for every character. Instead, which was part of the original design, instead it's down to wooden cubes. So there are all kinds of streamlining that had to occur in the game to make it reasonably playable and approachable in a 32-page rule book.
And I am not going to talk about how I actually don't like fame and notoriety as a split, because we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk. I tell you what we're going to talk about. We're talking about horses. I need to know about horses. And I said I was going to ask, and then I came back and did not ask about horses. So so you got this new. I mean, I think a lot of people are excited about it since it is a staple in Magic Realm, right?
Yep.
What are horses like in Dragon's Down?
Much simpler than they're implemented in Magic Realm, but while maintaining the flavor. As it's no secret, I don't like horses in Magic Realm, mainly because all attacks hit horses, and therefore you're like, uh, if the Berserker stumbles upon giant bats, he's dead. He's gonna die. He's going to die. If the Berserker gets a Warhorse, then literally, because there's no wounding or anything, giant bats are
Sure. Yeah.
literally invalid against a Warhorse. They literally can't harm, and so you play this boring combat where you just like, how many rounds does it go until I hit or combat ends? So I am going to share my screen, and then you tell me if you can see it, and if not, you might have to
Yeah,
share it.
I will probably have to share it because I.
So let's just see if this
So
works. I want to share.
this now we're into convoluted space because we're. Oh, there you go. Oh, you got it. You win. Actually, very nice.
Okay. Okay. So that can be seen by the
Yep.
folks on the screen.
Everybody should be able to see that. Can you can
Okay.
see that, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to start talking, and then
yeah, no, you talk. If someone
using...
bitches at me about not being able to see it, we'll figure it out. But go ahead.
Okay. So this is a heavy horse, right? And so you can see it's got 3 health, no armor, so sharpness still affects it. It has a strength of 2, so you couldn't have you couldn't have your plate armor on and ride a heavy horse because it just
Okay.
can't carry it, right? Um, and then there are the 2 rows, and so the horse icon at the bottom of the plank signifies it's placed next to your hero board. It doesn't take up a slot. Okay, so it doesn't fit anywhere on your board. It's placed next to it. It gives you 2 advantages. One is a passive effect, which is the fact that while you are riding the horse, you get a free move action, just as if you had the symbol of movement, right? Or symbol of motion.
Okay.
So you can move as long as one of those actions is a move. You can do 5 actions in a turn. Horses can't be active when they're in a cave. Yeah, they automatically go to your backpack. And then the other thing is it gives you 1 extra storage space, 1 extra active, and that represents the fact that you're on the horse and you got your stuff on you, and right next to you, right in the saddle bag, you could grab something else. So you, instead of having 3 miscellaneous spots, you have 4. Okay. In combat is the bottom row. So you cannot, when you have a horse equipped, you cannot play maneuver cubes on your card. You play them on the horse. So this one gives you 1 automatic maneuver speed, plus you can place up to 2 more on it. So you have a max of 3, but 1's free, which means it doesn't count against your cube limit. So that's pretty straightforward. Well, the next question becomes, well, what happens if my horse gets killed in the middle of combat? What you do is you take any cubes that were on the horse card and they transfer to your maneuver box, assuming you have space on your card. Any excess are chucked away, right?
Okay.
And then combat continues, and it happens immediately. So I say, dude, your horse dies, you fall to the ground or whatever, and combat continues. Okay, the light horse gives you 2 cubes, so you can have up to 4 maneuver speed. And by the way, that same is true for challenging and evading as well. And the light horse provides no extra storage space, but it does provide 2 extra moves.
Mm.
But you have less carrying capacity, and of course, pretty much 1 hit's going to kill your light horse. But that extra 2 moves can be huge, right, for moving around the realm.
Sure.
And then your war horse, different, an extra alert action. No extra benefit in combat for speed, but 2 extra spaces for miscellaneous equipment,
Mm.
and it's armored. So if horses follow all the same rules as monsters, if a horse gets hit, and it doesn't kill it. So if this got hit with a strength of 1 or 2,
Mm-hmm.
or even 3, if one of those was a sharpness star or was a sword, the warhorse would be wounded and now has a health of 2 for the rest of combat. Just like monsters, at the end of combat, poof, automatically healed. Okay, there's 1 extra rule, and it's this: the warhorse always gets hit first, except in 2 circumstances. Actually, that's not true. 3 circumstances: ranged attacks hit the rider. They're shooting at the rider. They're not trying to kill the horse. Um, Flying monsters hit the rider.
Okay.
So this means that your warhorse isn't a benefit against a giant bat.
Okay.
Okay. Third is if you're playing with player versus player rules, anyone who places the cube in the aim box avoids the warhorse as well. So you can swing your sword at the dude in the saddle. You don't have to kill the horse first. That was the big part I realized that I didn't like about Magic Realm is it's like you had to bludgeon your way through a horse in order to kill a rider, and then something didn't seem quite right. And I pictured dragons swooping from the sky. Why the hell are they going after the horse?
I mean, for
Right?
lunch, but yeah, no, I get you.
Right. So anyway, so
No, that's nice. It's fairly simple, I think.
Yeah.
It has a very similar flavor, right? You're gonna want a horse if you can get one. You're gonna mostly want one. The move bonus itself is huge, and if even you have a warhorse, the warhorse has the one thing that I think is, I'm gonna say underutilized, but I can never quite get there. Alerts are huge. I love alerts, but it's so rare that you're just going to alert on a random day, or right, you know what I mean? So having like an extra alert phase, that's a fun bonus.
Yeah, it's the alert is often a destination action, I call it, right? You're at the some treasure site, and the monster might show up, so you alert, but typically you're going to sneak instead.
Yeah.
But sometimes you want you don't typically do it as you're moving through a tile. You typically don't alert.
Yeah, it's not
The
part of your
warhorse
day. Yeah. No.
Yeah, whereas the warhorse gives you the ability to do that, right?
That's another mechanic I really love in Dragon's Dawn. I think alert, again, there's a lot. My head is totally, blinded by the fact that I played Magic Realm for 4 decades. I love the alert mechanic in Dragon's Dawn.
So simple. It's not about flipping weapons. That was something I agonized over.
That's a good mechanic.
You know,
The extra cube is so big, like because it's super subtle. It's one extra cube. Oh, that's one cube. What do you? Nope, that's the cube that's gonna make or break this fight.
right.
It's very, very often that I sit there and go, if I alert, this combat's over, but I didn't, and so now I have a 44% chance to hit, and if I don't hit, I'm gonna get spanked, essentially.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, what were you gonna ask?
Frizz13 asked, does your warhorse get wounded damage like regular armor? It wounds like a creature, right?
Yep, wounds like a monster. So it's no different than an armored orc.
So end of combat, those wounds go away.
Poof.
Which does again, which makes it, I mean, it is a benefit in combat. It is, but it's interesting because again, and you're and the night's dragging on, so we're mentioning Magic Realm more and more because you're colored by your Magic Realm sort of plays as well. I think a little bit, but yes, tremendous warhorse. The White Knight, you should buy a Morningstar, but if you can, buy the warhorse. It's better than your armor.
Yep. It's the fact that there's no doubt. Like it Magic Realm colored. I mean, I set out to go. I want more people to be able to play Magic Realm, and make it more approachable. And it's just not approachable. And there's so many non-intuitive things in there. It's still my favorite game of all time, and that includes a game I've designed. But the truth is I have on my shelf right here. I have 2 copies of Magic Realm. And I have 3 in total. I have 2 copies here. I doubt I'll ever play it again. I don't know. I mean, I would probably with you, or like like some people were setting it up at a con or something.
Right.
But like the idea of getting together with 3 of my buddies and whipping out Magic Realm versus Dragon's Down is just not. It's not in the ballpark anymore.
I do agree that I think Dragon's Down is way more approachable, right? I mean, just the rule book itself. I mean, you got a book. Oh, but that's a question I wanted to ask. Are we ever going to get maybe a consolidated rule book? That's one thing I do find hard with the current state of the game is there's just a lot of books to look through at this point.
So the short answer is yeah. There's some, but if you think about it, I can't do it till I do a final campaign. So
Yeah, yeah,
it'll
sure.
be an X or something. But I have what, three reveals left, I think, and I'm really excited about all three of them. We're starting into we're getting into the quality of life things now more than anything else. Um, but there's some, but yeah, we're not gonna. People have asked about chunkier dice. That's not going to happen. Um, People have asked about a consolidated rule book, and all that. Sure, absolutely planned.
At the
But
end, though, right at the
but
end, at
yeah,
the very end,
otherwise
right?
otherwise just perfect example of otherwise I'm just committing myself to printing out
Yeah,
I'm making this up, but a 48-page rule book that will confuse the shit out of somebody who doesn't already know the game. And then you go, and then I'm gonna do the next release, and it's a 56-page rule book. Doesn't make sense.
yeah,
It's got to be something I do at the end. And the truth is I work with some content creators, who have published consolidated ones online, and I'm a big fan. Go do that. Got no problem with it. That's better than me providing a printed one that I have
sure.
to replace a year later.
Yeah, no, no, no.
So,
I just that's one thing I was thinking the last playthrough.
by the way,
Yeah,
same logic holds true for a storage solution, and it's all like a little bit beyond the horizon of what I'm thinking about. I just know there will be, like, for example, if somebody says, "Oh, is it going to be offered as like the final game will ship in one big box?" and da da, like, I don't know. I don't know
oof,
the answer to that question.
that's a lot of box.
Well, my
I'd love to
point
see
there
that
is
box.
yeah, because the other part, it could be like, and not everybody's going to want it because there's a cost associated with it. But it could be something like I team up with Game Trace to build a unified
Sure,
box and solution that is just a separate purchase. There's 1,000 different ways this could be done. And right now, I'm focused on Eastern reaches and,
sure.
frankly, making sure the content for Wildlands is good. So
No, no, no,
yeah,
and I think that's the right. I mean, yeah, I mean that's the way to go. I was just asking because it just hit me the other night playing. I'm like, I got four rule books or five, right, sitting out here, and I have to figure out which one, to look in to do the thing. Now it's mostly obvious, but then there's some edge cases where you go, well, what about flying, or what about flying in this case, or that kind of thing, where you go, oh, it's a little. There's a lot going on right now. That's a good
yeah,
thing. But yeah,
yeah,
at the end, it'd be great if all the rules were in one, one book done, and then
yeah.
we had them. So I mean, here's the problem. I could go on way longer than probably you want to go. I'm sorry.
I'm okay continuing for now. I'm here.
Okay, good, good. So that's all. So let me ask you. So this is a
Pretty soon, by the way, by the end of this, it's going to be just you and I talking, and everybody else is going, "Holy cow, what a couple
no,
of
no, I get
blowhards!"
it. No, no, no. And that's most of my streams, by the way. So I'm used to it. You're not, but I'm used to this. I'm used to being alone. Um, my first videos were playing Magic Realm on like Twitch alone for 4 hours. Think about it. That says really sad things about me. But I'm okay with that. So okay, so you say you're doing a game a year, right? That's but you have several games under your belt already.
And
Is
yep,
Dragon's Down your favorite design? Now this is, if you take away, I'm gonna say, the lifelong dream, sort of the Magic Realm nostalgia vibes, take that crap out. Just from a design perspective, is Dragon's Down your favorite design of a game that you've done?
yes, 21 years of my life. I was 38 when I first created my first prototype. 22 years, something like that. Um, and if you were on there was a Magic Realm mailing list 1,000 years ago. It's still active, I think, to some extent. But um, I met people there, and I started. One of them, Steve McKnight, had contact. He had Richard Hamblin's email, and I have the email where Richard Hamblin blesses the idea of me doing a game. based on that uses some Magic Realm mechanics. So this isn't me ripping off an idea or just retheming and stealing. I actually got permission from the man.
Yeah, you fanboyed all of us right here because I always thought Halo was a genius. Like even
no. The
Yeah.
fact that it requires the depths of spreadsheets that I use, and he designed a system that is more interconnected and more complex. Without any of that is just, my mind melts. So anyway, hey, so there was somewhere that I saw a question that triggered me. Maybe
did we miss one?
No, maybe I'm wrong. Oh, I told like no card options. I was like, stop, Tony, stop.
Additional non-horse mounts.
I know that's the one. Yeah. So I can see those as treasures. And we'll see. I feel like I've already provided that with the Beastmaster. Right?
Oh,
the Beastmaster has that capability. I don't want to because you start to get into kind of messy, kludgy territory where you go, let's pretend there's a Griffin card that is a treasure that can be looted. Some of that I struggle with a little bit because you go, well, what the hell is a Griffin doing? It's locked inside the Lich's crypt, or whatever. And then if it's a card, well, then it can't be a monster and it operates differently. And so you can't really have a Griffin card. It has to be something else. Don't get me wrong. I have some plans for Wildlands, but I don't know. I feel like I already provided some of that capability with the Beastmaster, and there are some treasures. A treasure that allows you to do that. I don't remember which one off the top of my head. Maybe it's in Wildlands. I'm spilling the beans here, but just know, I would prefer to do it that way than create too many additional treasure cards. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some, but it's pretty freaking cool. I will admit. Think in terms of legendary treasures, and stuff like that. I kind of want to show it just to be a
no, you're just now you're bursting right now. You got that.
I know I'm the world's worst. I get so excited. Let's be clear. Even Natives and Legends was originally Natives, and Legends was going to be the release the next year, right? And then I realized, well, I've got it done. I've got it totally play tested. Why wouldn't I do something with this, right?
Getting that, yeah. No, I love the Legends part of Natives and Legends. I think that's huge. Hell, even the last game, even the bingo, which totally throws out the 99% of the incentive of the base game. I'm gonna go to that place, that treasure site to get cursed so that I can get uncursed to mark a bingo space. So I do.
Yeah, no, totally.
I love the ledge. I think that's a great and really and again, I know sort of some of the inspiration for that, the treasures within treasures, but I think the legendary sites are just more fun 90% of the time. They're just so much more fun. Hey, I found the statue of the Templar, and I can sit here and risk rolling the learn dice or the search, whichever, a haggle dice in that case.
Everyone has different mechanics, and they're meant to be thematic. And the treacherous ledge is all about your maneuver speed. The climbing one is all about your attack. Cavernous pit's all about your, the collapsed passage, and they feel pretty thematic. And I'm really pleased with how that turned out. Again, without creating any additional.
Sure.
The one thing you get in Dragon's Down is you might go, I walked across this treacherous ledge, and on the other side was the cavernous pit, and in the cavernous pit was the statue of the Templar. Right? Now, some of those you go, what have happened in reverse order? I found the statue of the Templar. There was a cavernous pit with a treacherous ledge in it. You go, okay, you might have to stretch your believability a little bit more. But in that case, it's I'm not thinking you found a cavernous pit inside the statue of the Templar. It was nearby.
That's the dungeon. That's the linear dungeon. I had to get through the statue to get to the ledge to get to the pit, like that kind of thing.
That's right.
But it's closer to that.
And I think making up those stories is part of the fun, too. So, to me.
Barrier Peaks alternate land set or treasure site. I don't know if that's a question or a BKINDT. I don't know how to pronounce that. Bekindit asked that.
Be kind. I'm guessing it's
be kind. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you're here.
One of the skills I provide.
Barrier Peaks alternate land set or treasure site.
So Barrier Peaks was a pretty famous
module
D&D scenario, right? Module. And I think that question was asked earlier about the idea of like a alternate land set, new, either something that swaps out or new monsters for this for the mountain set or whatever. Not in the plans. I really do see, I have a pretty clear vision of what I want to do with the big boxes. And then after that, when I say like I'll do these card sets and new treasures, that's just to keep it fresh, or new spells. Wouldn't it be cool if one day I go, hey, I got 15 more, or it have to be divisible by 7 colors in the game, 21 new spells, and you can just order them off the website and they get shipped to you.
So
I think that plays better.
That's interesting because, again, I think you are, strike me, and again, I'm not, I don't want to presume for you. I don't want to be like, but you strike me as very thematic story, and you've mentioned that even in this one, but emergent story sort of, and it almost feels like there's a line. Eastern Reaches does not cross that line. It's still a fantasy sort of vibe, right?
Yeah.
But it's more Middle Eastern, and it's more right, and so on. But Barrier Peaks gets real close to that line and maybe crosses over, because Barrier Peaks had that little bit of sci-fi going on, right? That little bit of goofiness.
Yep.
That got Gygaxian goofiness. You could be fighting a training punching boxing robot, and
people have asked. That's a great question, right? Because there was like the little tentacled thing with a little rabbit on top of the tree stump that looked like it was so harmless, and then it would rip you to shreds.
Right.
And you'd find laser guns and stuff. I think that was an amazing module to play with your buddies. I don't want to base a game system around it. Around a single adventure, and that's not really what Dragon's Down is about. So people have asked, well, if I did a sci-fi version, right, that was on the kind of the same scale, would the systems be compatible? Short answer is I have no earthly idea. Right. My guess is probably not, but it would share a lot of mechanics, and maybe, but that wouldn't be one of the design goals. The design goal would be to create a thematic experience that has you wandering around in a biome that's very foreign to you. That would be the sci-fi version of it.
And don't get me wrong, I hate mentioning Talisman in the same breath that I'm mentioning Dragon's Down and Magic Realm, right? But I always felt that Talisman, because you have, there's Talisman Timescape and Talisman, you go, oh God, that's not the same game. Like you've just ruined the vibe a little bit. Oh, I have a Chainsaw Warrior. Screw that. That you've ruined the. At that point, you don't have a theme. You have all themes. You're nothing, kind of. If that makes any sense, it's.
I relate to that.
Like I wouldn't want a sci-fi. Like I might want a sci-fi version of Dragon's Down, but I don't want it in Dragon's Down. If that makes any sense.
That's right. Right.
So I don't.
Hey, anybody want a little sneaky peek?
I do want a sneaky peek. Are you gonna? Or have we worn you down to the
no,
where
but
you're giving away trade secrets
now? No, because the truth is this is like 2 years away at earliest, and the reality is it 2 years is an eternity for my brain, so this could all change. There's another side of this, which is the Dragon's Maw, which is a volcano tile, red. You see here, so it's tied to the It's tied to the mountains, or at least it's considered a mountain pack, like part of the mountain terrain pack.
Hmm.
This would be an X, right? And so this would be the special tile for the mountains, which means you could either just play with this in the mountains, or you could, um, or you could you use it as or you could just shuffle it in. It's not
Sure.
dependent on the mountain. Here's what I'm currently thinking. This brain's just thinking out loud. So this is the flip side of it, side two, as you can see here. Um, and this is a clearing where the volcano is erupting, and it's instant death for you.
So
Is the
don't
bottom
fly
line.
into there, is what you're saying, or
Oh yeah,
good luck
well,
with that.
you notice it's not even connected at this point, so it just doesn't even exist. The other side of it, of course, does have paths leading into this clearing, and so you just don't want to be on this. Like you don't want to be there and then enchant the top. But the way it would work is the special rules on this tile is there you move around these various. By the way, you'll notice the lava, if this erupts, hits clearing 4 and clearing 6,
Hmm.
right? That's what that symbol means. Again, all just like spitballing. I don't even have this to play test. I just created it to kind of see could it work. Special monsters in here, but the other thing would be what I'm thinking is each clearing would have a token, and you just so when this tile is placed, you place 6 tokens that would have this special symbol on it with the mountain. There'd be mountain special chits.
Hmm.
So anyway, you'd place 6 on here, and then you would reveal them as you move into the individual clearing. So this would be like a single tile with the equivalent of 6 tokens on it. So that's kind of the way I'm leaning on that. That's one example. I won't show. I have
That's could be fun though.
eight,
That's a neat
eight
special tile.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah,
I,
eight special tiles. There's some other ones that are
and
like
so,
again, all of these are subject to
oh, there
change.
you go. There you go.
So things like that.
And so that's what
Um,
the little star symbol on the monster dice was for these special tiles, which
you know, which is pre-printed in Eastern Reaches. So Eastern Reaches would be mandatory if you wanted to play,
sure,
you
sure.
know, this.
Yeah,
So anyway,
that's fun. That could be fun. Those are fun. Lowarn asked, since you mentioned it, the thickets aren't supposed to be jungle. Can you explain what the thickets are?
yeah, they're jungle, but I didn't want them tied to. I didn't want them tied to. I didn't want it to be like south. It's got the theme of kind of jungle and whatnot, but I wanted people to think of it like if you think not know, am I in like the Congo or like the Brazilian, the Amazon jungle, or am I in like the thickets of the savannah of the of Africa or something along those lines, right? I want thickets to me feels more thematic to a Western fantasy game than it does a
Sure.
jungle.
Yeah,
That said, there absolutely are some jungle themes
it's
in
not
the monsters and the treasures.
tropical, but it's overgrown, kind of, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's the way I was trying to. That's what I was trying to convince myself.
I mean,
Let's just put it
you
that
can
way.
go up to northwestern, U.S. and Canada and see thickets essentially,
You're
which
you're
are
you're in. Hey, no, absolutely right. So anyway, that's why I did it
now
the way I did.
you have a weather card up there. Is
I
that a weather
do.
card? What? So how is this mechanic? How do you foresee this working now?
So again, by the time this is released, God knows what it's really going to be, right?
Sure,
So just
sure,
know this
sure.
is just current thinking.
Spitballing.
So weather cards accomplish a couple different things. Number one is you can play based on the season: spring, summer, fall, winter. Okay, so let's say we're playing fall. You grab all the fall cards, shuffle them together. That's your deck. It does 2 things. It modifies the way the game is played slightly. I'm not huge on massive changes. Second thing is it's variable game length. So clear weather, hey, I can get more. And again, it's not tied to days, which Magic Realm has. It's tied to this idea of okay, clear card. That's the first one we flip. Great. It's 6 turns long, no special rules. On the 5th turn, we would reveal what the next card would be. And in this case, it's clouds. 5 turns. long. So if we flip those 2 cards, we're 11 turns into the game at this point. So then it turns cold. You'll notice that cold does not occur in the summertime. If you're
Okay.
not in shelter, in a cave, or in a civilization location, you have to lose one action or take a wound at the end of your turn. So you could either do 3 actions or take a wound. It's 4 turns long. And you'll notice that when it's cold, you don't get to know what the next card is until the very end of the turn. So you just go through these and you go then, but it's not just weather. It's also kind of auric effects. So this is again current thinking, which is corrupted. This is you would randomly draw a magic cube, put it on there, and all of those any enchanted tiles with that color are literally nullified, right?
Yeah.
Curse. If you're not in shelter, you either have to take a wound or take a curse, your choice. So it's just, those are kind of some of the themes of this Dark Omens, which is about monsters summoning. Dreamlike, you get extra actions every turn. So, these just some of the various things. I won't go into too much details, but, it's just, they're all various kinds of effects. My favorite, probably Icebound. Rivers are treated as plains clearings or clear clearings. I forget what I called them. Um, and it's so cold that, of course, you have to spend an action each turn staying warm, or you take a wound. It only occurs in the wintertime. So this now changes the very effect of the river,
Right.
for example. And the other part is, so your game. I've done the math, right? Your game is, instead of being 30 turns long, it's going to be 28 to 32 turns long. You never
Right.
know
Okay.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what. Yeah,
I
it's so
I think
really simple.
it's
It's
fairly
just a,
clean. That's a clean mechanic, I think. I was
yep.
worried about weather. I never played with weather in Magic Realm ever. Like any of the, I was like,
Well,
you know what? Don't like it.
hated weather.
Don't like
Hated
it.
weather.
Don't like it. You're just. I always worry about. I will say this. I worry about arbitrary penalties across the board. Like you always want something to be situationally good. I think for people, or you know what I mean, or as opposed to just you're going to take some turns away or something, right? You know what I mean? Like I never loved weather in Magic Realm for that. I always just sort of just said, I'll just play with the 4 turns a day, done, and just move on.
Yeah, I didn't think weather added enough for the complexity it injected into the game.
Understood.
Um,
Yeah.
and as everybody's probably figured out, I'm big on components. Why are the spells cards instead of just something you scribble down? Because if you scribble it down, well, then everybody could have Fireball. Because I wanted a component that would give you the gist of the spell, maybe not all the details, but give you the gist of the spell that you have right next to your board.
Sure.
And the penalty is not only one person can have Fireball. Pretty minor thing, because most of the time you're not going to go. It's not like you have this like knife fight in the hallway over who gets to take.
We have
Who gets
we have.
first serving of spaghetti and who gets
uh,
the
I won.
Fireball. So
I
you won,
won.
yes.
Can you help me bury a body, Scott? Is that
Yes.
would you
Short,
if I called you?
short answer is yes.
Do we? I mean, we don't have that relationship, but I'm hoping we're getting there. I'm hoping. So Sylvain asks, will there be more items added that use ranged dice like bows, crossbows, knives, spears, or could these items get magical abilities or magical addition, reduce attack speed, etc.?
Yeah. Short answer is probably no to both, but the reasons being, the magical abilities added to items are already provided by the existing treasures and spells. Cast a strength spell, and you've just enhanced your mace, right? And I think that's the better way to go. Like, I'd rather it be the combination of cards that provide that, as opposed to an item gaining magical capability, which would be a new rule that then people have to understand. On the other question about, what was that? It was about
The tiles,
addition,
would they become in the fourth
additional
expansion?
additional ranged
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
attacks.
you're talking about. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
ranged
Same
weapons.
question. My fault.
If you look, yeah, if you look over the items in the game, you'll see that the items cover nearly every combination of attack in the game. So I don't want to go like people say, what about a scimitar, for example, right? Your Eastern reaches, you have scimitars. How would they be different than a long sword or a short sword? Capabilities wise, right? So I don't want to add complexity without so in my head I have a short sword, and let's say I'm playing a character and I'm on the rivers and I'm running around slaughtering natives. That's probably a scimitar and I'm probably a pirate. You know what I mean?
Sure,
So
sure. Well, I actually I love the variation in weapons, right, in Dragon's Down. I think is very fun, and this includes the items and the treasures, right? Like, oh, big weapon, but man, I gotta put 2 cubes in this for sure. Um, I'm always thinking about how many cubes do I spend for what damage, right? Is it 2 cubes for 3 damage potentially? Is it 1 cube for 2 damage? Are you throwing the potion for 1 cube for potentially 4 damage? And thus the missile roll plus 6 damage, right? Like potentially.
yep.
Like I do appreciate, because again, you didn't get that in Magic Realm that much. You did a little bit. You got some, but for instance, magic weapons, there was what, 3, 4 of them, and they were all in treasures within treasures. Dragon's
Yep.
Down really opened that up. You can find a weapon. I can find a mace that gives me, that changes the game for my character, which I really appreciate. I do love the variation in weapons. Will you share the master spreadsheet? Oh, I mean, I think that thing is probably copyright patented. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Scott.
No, probably wouldn't happen. Here's the deal, right? When I know, so one of the things I do fear for 22 years into this, and while I'm still actively doing expansions and stuff, I I get really nervous when I see people say things like, "Hey, I've completely replaced the art, and here's this template creator that allows you to do all that," right? Um, but I would absolutely think there'd be a day when I publish the formula for
Right.
classes and lineages and go to town, folks.
But the very end, right? Once you're done, sort of. I mean, I don't know. I mean, so that's okay. Here's a good question, and this is definitely an end of the night question, right? Are you ever going to be truly done with Dragon's Down? Like, I know you got other things to do, right? You're a game designer. You need to design some games. There's a time where you move on commercially, kind of, right? But is this the one you're thinking about 10 years later still and going, oh, you know what? I really want to add blah to it because
I don't want to George Lucas it. you know, there's like there's a solid chance, for example, that Wildlands includes a new item, which is I've never pondered adding more items. I've thought about adjusting quantities and such,
mm-hmm.
but there's a solid chance I add, a new item just because I did come up with an idea for something that would be beneficial, and not game breaking. But uh, will it ever be done? I think I'll be done because they get excited about doing post-apocalyptic Dragons Down or something along those lines. Um, but I can always see I'll always need, you know, let's call it 3 years from now, and people are going, "Guy, you can't find this game anywhere, right? It's all sold out because they keep supplies pretty tight,
Sure,
mainly because
sure.
I only got so much money." But coming out with a new pack of treasures, hey, here's 40 new treasures I dreamed up, right, that have been play tested. I would think that that would be the reason to excuse to run a campaign such that I could do a reprint of the existing game, right?
Okay.
The only negative on all this is it's pretty darn like this. I agonized over would I offer everything this campaign again, and I
Yeah.
decided this might be the last time I do it. Like I obviously I'm cutting out all the legend stuff for next turn, so that next time. So, but it gets pretty soon. You go like I for the first time I'm getting questions like, "Well, I want Eastern Reaches, but I don't want natives and legends." Well, there's some stuff you won't be able to use. They're
Right.
intended to be
Sure.
bought in sequence, and I
Sure,
can't
sure,
help
sure.
that, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's. I mean, obviously, I think I don't know. I think the game is still growing in the. I mean, from a popularity standpoint. I mean, or is
Yep,
that? Do you feel that, or is that?
no doubt.
Yeah. So I mean, so it does make sense. I think still, right? You're still gonna probably have reprints into the near future, right? The next campaign and the next campaign and so on. I Does that feel correct? That we're still
Say
reprinting
that one
for a
more
little
time.
while? Or are we still
Yeah, we're
like
still. Yeah.
like you're still
Yes.
reprinting? Because I think the game's still growing. Like that base game
Yeah.
is still on people's. It's getting on more people's radar over and
Yeah.
over.
And let me throw out one quick thing. So I said earlier I regret doing the Legend Edition mainly because it's complicated my life. You know,
Sure,
like there
sure,
was the snafu with the fulfillment company where they shipped to everybody in the US who had ordered Dragons Down Desolation Standard Edition. They shipped the Legend Edition, and then I no longer had their script, and I was it. You know, that's ultimately why I'm not working with them anymore. Um, they corrected at their expense, but that required the goodwill of people who had been shipped. You know, like 80 people had been
sure.
shipped a copy of the game, and I didn't have enough to fulfill the people who had bought the Legend Edition,
Right.
who had actually bought it the right way. And I'm like, huh. So I just want to avoid that. So that's the only reason why when I say, but now that since I did it, right, the Legend Edition, you know, my big thing for is I want people to get value out of their Legend investment. People are going to be, you know, whatever. It's called 3 years, and who knows what the future holds. I make no commitments, but 3 years from now, there are going to be people going, I love this game. I got to get me the Legend Edition, and I want people who were there with me from day one to be able to go, I have a Legend Edition for you, sir. You know, I
it's
want you to be you were with me at the start, right? Or from here.
it's sort of
So
funny to me because again, I think a lot of people, and you definitely see this in Board Game Geek, are just not aware of how much of a pain in the ass it is to get a game printed and pushed out to folks. Like a lot of that
yeah,
vitriol that you've talked about, and we've and you've mentioned and we've talked about even. Um, it's just interesting because I just don't think people know how much of a logistical challenge it is to get all the pieces in place and then get something to your door. And then even then, if it gets to your door, I mean, you because even the first fulfillment of Dragons Down, you go, yeah, and these dice are printed wrong, and the colors on the damn cubes is goofy because they didn't do the colors right.
I
Like
approved a different set. Yeah,
it is, and I'm not an industry guy, so that's why I sort of love hearing those stories from you. It's just such a pain in the ass, and so many things can go wrong, and so many things can go wrong that have nothing to do with you. Literally, you have no control over.
yeah. So just a simple one is, and I'm estimating here, but you know the human card and then the witch familiar chip not being in the standard edition of Natives and Legends. Each one of those, one was my mistake, one was not my mistake. Each one of those probably cost about well in total cost about $3,200
Yeah,
out of my pocket. Now that's and then the tariffs came, and the tariffs were today I had a good bowel movement, so I'm lowering it to 45%. Nope, now I'm upset again. I'm at 145%. It had
yeah,
no connection to reality, and I didn't have the and it's like and talk about destroying an industry. Now, what I didn't like is that I felt there were companies who said because of the tariffs, we're forced to shut down, and it was their get out of jail free card when they had mismanaged. Right? Like
yeah,
I'm telling you, everybody on this call right now, that there isn't this. Like I shipped out $80 worth of shipping today to send parts to people who either had an error, there's a due, and arranged for a giant serpent chip to be shipped to the UK because one guy had the back of the giant serpent sticker on both sides. Again,
yeah.
not my error, right?
Sure.
So I dropped $80 today, but not a penny of the money that is going to cover that shipping cost is coming from anything having to do with Eastern reaches. I run an efficient, I run a legitimate enterprise. I know how to run a business. I'm not like borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that I think some companies took advantage, you know.
Yeah, I
So
mean, definitely there's, yeah. I mean, the gaming industry is, I have a buddy who owns a game store here in my town, and he talks all the time about, I mean, there's just a wild variation in business acumen of the companies that
yeah.
are in distributing and publishing and so on, and definitely you can see that.
So so
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, all I was gonna say is um yeah, the in the a lot of people get into board game design and whatnot because it's fun. I mean, this is great. This is loads of fun. This is my enjoyment. This is my relaxation. But make no mistake, it still requires a business mind. Like, let me give you a quick example.
Yeah.
I'll bore the hell out. We've been
I
rambling
know.
for 2.5 hours.
See, I'm into this, but that's okay.
Anyone
But
still here?
I
People can, yeah.
maybe
So,
not.
so
We'll see. But go ahead.
okay, so great. So when we're done, Kickstarter takes 10%, 90% of those funds get deposited into an account of mine. The clock is ticking. I have 7 months to get that money out of my account, or else I have to pay 50% of it in taxes to the US government because I'm cash accounting. Okay. So clock's ticking, man. I'm working my butt off. I'm already talking with China. I'm waiting on e-proofs of what I've sent to them, which will be every single card, every single sticker, every single, right? And this will all
Yeah.
come to me for 4 games, right? All 4 games and expansions. I will have to review every single one of those card by card, sticker by sticker to make sure. That's where I screwed up and I didn't catch the error on the female, let's call it Asian human card.
Sure.
Okay. So then, great. So go back and forth until I feel it's right. Then they ship me a printed copy. I still have these out in my garage of everything again. And I review one more time in print. Like, oh, the colors look off. This looks this looks that. Then they do a what's called they hand build a copy. They print it and hand build a copy. Ship me that. I go through everything on that and I go, looks good. At this point, it's cost me money to change it. Okay. Then I always do an extra step, which is you grab a copy off the production line and you ship it to me. And I review a production line copy. Now it's really expensive if I have to change something, because
Right.
now it's like stop the presses or reprint all of something. Okay, so great. The factory then gets done. They go, I don't have storage for 2,000 games, whatever it works out to be. I need to get these out of here. Great. So then I got to arrange for a shipping company to pick the product up. Oh, well, how many copies are going to Europe versus how many copies are going to the United States versus how many copies are staying in China to be shipped out there? So I have to make that call. We didn't get it quite right on the last campaign. There are 4 people that paid for Legend Edition games, like the all-in Legend, that never got their game. So, okay. So to make it up to them, I'm gifting them a Legend edition of Eastern Reaches, and I'll be shipping that to them. And so they get it for free, but they waited an extra year.
Yeah.
How crappy
Yeah,
is
it
that?
is crazy, actually.
So, you have no idea how much they appreciate their patience, right? So great. Then it ships. Then in the United States, pretty easy. It just comes here, gets shipped to the new fulfillment center, and they start shipping stuff out. Meanwhile, of course, I have to manage the pledge manager, which is where people pay for their shipping. Inevitably, somebody will complain about something not being right. I haven't selected my pledge manager yet, right? I'm getting hit up by all kinds of people, both scammers and real people who have pledge. I get emails from fake email addresses all the time telling me to log into a website with my Kickstarter password, and then they're going to change my bank and steal
Yes.
the funds from it.
Yeah.
Okay. When everything gets shipped to Europe, it used to be that you could send it to one center and you'd pay the fulfillment, you'd pay the VAT based upon kind of where you sent it, and then that fulfillment center cover changed the laws this year. So now it's when I ship it to Europe, um, I have to individually figure out how many copies are going to Poland, how many copies are going to Switzerland, how many copies are going to France,
Mm.
Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, UK, Sweden, Finland, South America, South Africa, like everywhere. And I have to individually figure out how to pay the VAT and all of that to get it off the boat. So that'll just think about that for a
Yeah.
moment, right? Okay. Um, and meanwhile, I'll already have done the pledge manager and collected the funds for it. That we collect that up front, and then we pay it so that they don't have. Because what happens is the whole thing is, if I don't do that, then every single backer, you'll see posts on campaigns about, is this EU friendly or is this, import friendly? And what that means is you collect the VAT up front and pay it for them so that they just get it's built into the
Sure.
shipping and they just get the game. If you don't do that, they pay the same amount in VAT, and you go, well, then why would you do it? Because they also then pay a penalty because the government goes, I don't want to be hassled. I would rather hassle everybody else on the planet who wants to do business here than
Sure.
manage this individually. And so then what you do is you force everyone to go, hey, Chris, your game is arriving in Switzerland. Great. But before you can pick it up, you have to pay a $45 fee. It's $30 of VAT plus a $15 penalty for, I'm making this up. I don't know
Right.
the
Sure.
exact
Sure. Sure.
amount.
Yeah. Some penalty because it wasn't paid up front. So
Yeah. So it's like, and so then when I get an email going from somebody going, you're a criminal for charging X amount. I'm like, dude, I'm a dude in my basement.
That's why I feel just people don't quite understand. So I don't want to. I do want to poke the bear, but I don't want to poke the bear. But I do want to ask you a question because this. So right, the purpose of a tariff historically was I want to protect this industry in my home country. Thus, I will make it more expensive to do business out of the country. Right. So in this case, it'd be like printing. I want to protect printing. So I'm gonna all these printing goods coming in from China. I'm gonna put a X% tariff. Right. And there was a couple streamers way back when tariffs were first announced saying this is good for the industry because what it's going to do is it's going to make companies that are adapt and so on. And my thought was, is it even a possibility that you could find a USA based printer to do the work that you needed to do? Is that even a reality?
I'd have to triple the cost of the game.
Yeah.
Right up.
That's
Okay,
what I
then let me tell you.
but I didn't want to ask.
So and look, I'm a neophyte at this compared to some people. But let me just explain the brief for Dragon's Down in particular. We have cardboard components, we have mini cards, we have poker cards, we have chips. Those chips aren't printed. The chips are ordered, and then there's literally people who adhere them, print out the stickers and print them, right? The chips are sourced in a different place, okay? The wood cubes, there are 14 billion wood cubes in this game because of 172 different colors. You can't get, if I order them here in the United States, you know what happens? It's a wholesaler who bought them from China.
Yeah.
It's the only place where they're made. I mean,
sure, I'm sure you could find someone to make them. Yes.
And I have had people email me saying, hey, and I provided way more wood cubes than you'll ever need. Hey, I got this cube is only half size, so I want you to ship me a cube. So that's why I added a disclaimer on the terms and conditions. I don't replace wooden cubes because I was literally replacing cubes for people. It's like,
yeah,
these are anyway.
Teresa, can you get on that? I don't know if she's still here or not. The wooden cube exchange.
Yeah. But here's but the point is the cubes are a different sourced at a different place in China. And so everything is brought together. Even the factory doesn't do everything. The factory accumulates a lot. So even if all the equipment was here, and even if it was automated such that you didn't need the people to operate the presses, because you can't afford to operate the presses with the salaries paid here. I mean, the very fact that it is not possible to all that those industries shut down in the 50s, frankly,
Yeah.
as we went to the IT revolution. And so um, even if you could do that here, you can't source many of the materials you need here. And so the very fact that it is cheaper, it is only feasible to print in another country and ship it in a massive container ship, run it through
Yes.
customs, pay tariffs, have it trained and trucked to a fulfillment center where you then pay the people at that fulfillment center to ship it out, and that's still cheaper than printing it here should be all you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little crazy, but it is what it is. That's the modern, that is the modern supply chain universe that we live in. So, all right. Does anybody have a last question for Scott? Scott, do you have anything about Eastern Reaches that we haven't talked about that you're dying to talk about?
Is there anything about East? Yeah, I'm really excited about the next 3 reveals.
I mean, but those are revealed unless you want to slide one out. Unless we can taunt you to.
Yeah, I don't want to because I'll be. So I'd say that let me give.
You
flavor.
tease it? Can you tease it?
Expect spellcasters to get a boost tomorrow morning.
Yes.
And then expect 2 quality of life daily reveals.
Excellent.
Not necessarily gameplay related.
Don't do it. Teresa's like, no. No, daily reveals are good, but yeah,
I'm not going to spill the beans.
I don't mind spellcasters getting buffs. I love my spellcasters. Love them.
Yep. So
werewolf lineage. Yeah. Tim Carell asks, werewolf lineage.
Yeah, that's called a shapeshift spell. Transform into a wolf, and away you go. All right, see, Tim, I have solved your. I have thematically provided an answer to your question.
Solved it already. All right. I think it's almost 3 hours, so I think we did good. I mean,
right.
Not as many tangents maybe as but
this is better. This is more focused than the other.
Oh God, I almost feel. Is it wrong that I feel bad about that? Like I enjoyed because I asked a bunch of questions. We talked a lot about. We talked a ton about Eastern Reaches. I almost feel bad that it was focused. I almost feel like it's off brand a little bit for me.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like I was boring to you.
This is great.
I hope that you weren't, but I almost feel like it's I almost feel like I needed to drink more and then start asking wacky crap. But that's
no, it's good. I think I spilled the beans on a whole bunch of stuff that I'm contemplating and hey, anybody want to see anything from the development idea?
Yes, of course. I mean, might as well. Let's if you're willing to put a little glimpse of the future, I'm always in.
Yeah, you know what? I might not be able to do it because I had a hard drive crash. That's actually one of the reasons why I stopped doing it, stopped focusing on it. Is I had a hard drive crash and a failure of a backup as well. I'm now totally online, so
now you're scrambling to recover data.
I'm just trying. Well, no, I know it was gone. But I still have all of it because it was all in the spreadsheet. Give me 2 seconds.
Is it in a magical spreadsheet? That's the.
Let me see if I have anything, because I did share something. Development game. Oh no! Oh shoot! I found quite a bit of it. I'm putting this out there. By the way, the reason I'm doing this is I'm just curious if people would be interested in it. Okay, so let's share my screen. I am actively seeking feedback on this. Okay, So you have the concept of let's go here. You have development cards and advantage cards. Development cards have things like this. And ignore the little swoosh symbol. That was actually the original colorblind idea that I didn't do, but I probably will. I'm not going to reintroduce it now because I don't want mismatched sets, but I wish with every part of my being I had included those icons on the speed cubes, just like I did on the magic cubes.
All right.
But anyway, so agility drills. So you spend 20 gold plus two legend points or 30 fame, right? And then what it does is it gives you one of two things, either an additional speed cube or an additional maneuver box, right? And you start out as a villager, which you're just hot garbage, sneak a lot. You're like have one box in each place. You have one heart. You just are what you are. Okay. But the point is so these agility cards, these are mini cards, and they are at the merchants. No, wait, let me think. I can't remember. I'll have to let me check one thing real quick. Yeah. So these are at the these are with each native gets two of these cards.
Okay.
And that's what they train on. So if you go, you would have to seek out the elves who they agility drills, or maybe they have body fortification, which would add a heart or a speed cube, right?
Okay.
And so what you would do is you'd pay that price, you would get that ability, you would I think the class cards, like I don't know exactly how to do this, but like dry erase or something along those lines. But anyway,
sure.
Because I don't want to do like stickers and
yeah. No, I get you.
And I did think about the idea of having an adventure journal style sheet that had the class card on it, but then you'd have to, it would be just a small one that would fit, but you would literally just like it'd have everything grayed out and you just kind of draw it in. Anyway, the point doesn't matter. Well, that's a problem for another day. But you'd have a couple of these cards and you could just, get the different things, right? And so fusion sparring would be a magic cube or a speed cube, blah, blah, blah. So then the card, so I take Iron Discipline from the elves, and then you chuck that card out and you give them a new one. So kind of like missions, they would replenish. They'd always have two. Then the other thing would be advantage cards. These are, of course, the abilities. They're the advantages that you have as a class. And you'd still have a lineage card that would give you those advantages. But here you go, and it just shows thematically which class it belongs to now. But Woods Lore, to get it, you'd have to visit all 5 Woods Wilderness tiles.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
Backstab, the assassin ability, kill. Again, this is just mocked up, right? Kill 3 natives with melee attacks, right? I think those might be the only 2 I have. But the point being is, as you accomplish things throughout the game, it would naturally give you the ability to, and these would be at the merchants. And again, I think I had where each merchant would have 2. And so if you've accomplished, once you claim, you could just say, I'm going to claim this during a trade action. I now have the backstab ability because I've gotten experience that, killing natives with melee attacks. I get the backstab ability that locks in your ability and, your advantage, and then the other advantages don't apply anymore.
It's intriguing.
So
it's intriguing.
Pretty straightforward system. And then you'd play over what I would envision is you could play on a larger map as a solo player or whatever, or, but you could play for however many you want. And whenever you decide to retire your hero, you would keep one treasure from the set that's like a family heirloom that's passed down. And
there you go. That's fun. That's sort of fun. You've crossed over into legacy games.
You're
a legacy game now. So the only thing I would think about when I look at that, I think it's sort of neat. The question is balancing that early game a little bit, right? Because if you're a villager and you're hot garbage, killing 3 natives is going to be not something you're probably going to be able to do 9 times out of 99. So there's a little bit of that. Yeah.
Well, the advantages would come much later.
Okay.
They wouldn't be something you claim early because, even visiting all 5, you could run to get that if you really want the ranger ability. It would provide a little bit like a mission, a goal.
Yeah.
Right. To try and achieve. Advantages come later.
Could definitely be fun. Like I said, if you can balance the early game well enough that it doesn't feel like a crapshoot. Like I always hated the development rules in Magic Realm. I thought, you're really just saying hide all the time and don't do anything, is what you're saying for X amount of the game. And some of this would be that I understand because frankly, some of Dragon's Down is hiding and not taking that fight, which is going to chew you up, even with a fully fledged character. So I think if you balance the early game, that could be super fun to then go and say, hey, I'm gonna build a bear, right?
And I will say something I've thought about, which at this point isn't. I got to play test if this is ridiculous or not first, right?
Yeah.
But I play tested the idea of what if there was a timing aspect to this?
Oh, like, interesting.
When you're a villager, it's not you know the lore, right? You're 200 years after dragons came down from the sky.
Sure.
Well, okay, you're a villager. You're one of the people who helped establish the village. This is 100 years after the dragons came down from the sky, and there aren't as many monsters, and so you could modify some aspects of the rules, like how many monsters summon, and it could be a little ticker, a little timepiece that says once you've done you've developed 3 development, earn 3 or 4, whatever the number is, you start removing some of those barriers to the game being super hard. That's one thought, but again, this is I haven't done work on this in a year and a half.
I think it's an intriguing idea for sure, and I think the balance is really the point, right? That's all. If you can get that right, and it feels good at the first 20 turns or 10 turns or however long feel good, I think it'd be really fun to go through that.
Yep.
And
one quick note on this too. I even have in my massive spreadsheet of everything, have developed where certain cards can be set with certain natives. So like if you want magic, you're going to the elves or the priest, or you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
You're not going to the rogues to train you in how to. But some aspects of that, I don't like anything that modifies setup time. I would think a development game would primarily be I can't imagine like a Twilight Imperium style setting down 4 players all developing as villagers on a massive map on a Tuesday at 6 p.m. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But you could, but I think people would probably enjoy it more, probably solo gaming, where you go, look, I'm going to set off into this land and I'm an idiot. I'm going to see if I can, my play style at the beginning's got to be a little bit different than where I'm going to take it. But where I really get excited about it is the idea of just thinking out loud, there's a cap.
Okay.
And so you're ultimately, what is it really? It's less development as much as it is create your own class.
Sure.
Where you get to the end, and I haven't decided because it's tough to balance some of these, but what are some other class abilities that aren't currently in the game? I have, whatever.
And the other thing, and I'm not suggesting this because I'm definitely an armchair backseat driver game design guy. Or what if you separated the milestones from the abilities? So for instance, the milestones could be, maybe they're random, maybe they are cards, and it's like visit another dwelling because you're a dumb villager. So visiting the mine over there is a thing that you do, and you do it, and then you get potential upgrades that you deal out and go pick one of these 3 kind of thing. Very, I don't want you to say Mage Knight-y almost in that sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The problem is I don't like that would be creating all new mechanics to the game. And to me, that already exists in the sense that if you go, as a villager, I'm probably not walking out into the wilderness. I'm going straight to a merchant and trying to find some missions, like delivering stuff around to get the gold and the legend points and the fame. And I would say, I think the development game is a much slower experience just because you got to build up.
Sure.
And you got to be okay with dying. Being a local villager ripped apart by dire wolves probably sounds like a pretty common headline.
Or almost anything, really. I mean, that's probably
no, true.
It's the funnel. True. It's the DCC funnel. If anybody has played that game.
Yeah. So anyway, what I am not like, most often when people give me suggestions for new treasures or missions, or like the suggestion recently on Discord, or no, on the campaign about base building. Base building isn't part of this game.
Sure.
It can be a scenario, go to town with it, but it won't become a central part of the game. That's not what this game is. And so by the same token, where I get, people offer suggestions all the time and then this class, like I've had suggestions of classes that build up, and they get more powerful as the game progresses. Nope, not interested, because I don't want new mechanics that are one-offs. The mechanics have to fit the system. You play the system, and you can have different starting characteristics, which are your lineage and class, or
sure.
Maybe you want to do a development game. You got to play differently at the start of it. You're a villager. You're not the feared Black Knight, right?
Right.
So this is my 2 cents, right?
Sure.
So.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you. That was fun. Hopefully you had a good time. I had a great time.
I did too.
I
3 hours of chat with Chris. I don't get that too often. That's a special thing for me.
I don't think I was the highlight here, but that's okay. I appreciate the kind words in all cases. I do. I think it's super fun. I think Eastern Reach is going to be a great addition. Even what we have right now in the playtest on TTS is a huge addition to the game, and very much opens up the game. So I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm very excited to get the physical copy in my hands too. So
hey, I do want to point out that despite the fact that we lost $218 from the start at the start of the spin, we have recovered 62 of those dollars.
There you go. So someone gave us threw me a bone.
Pity money.
No. Here, take my 62. Oh God. Yeah.
Hey,
so,
quick plug. Yeah. I'll be at Gen Con. I'll be in the Gray Fox Games booth, which is usually right by the main gaming room. So come find me. I'll be there, both working and hanging out. And then at nighttime, I want to play Dragons Down with fans of the game. So let's play some Dragons Down together.
Super fun. All right, Scott. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, guys.
I appreciate it. And tomorrow evening, gosh, I have no idea. I've totally screwed my schedule up. But since Scott's here, and let's play Dragons Down tomorrow night. So tomorrow night on stream, we'll play some Dragons Down. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate you all. Scott, thank you again.